Sometimes I'd like to be alone in my own mind. I feel at home within these walls. I fear my own absence of association.
Welcome along to the third endurance event of the season in the World GT Championship. It's Season 8, Meeting 8 of the Championship, and we're here at the absolutely magnifique circuit that is Spa-Francorchamps. Near the town of Spa, and also the other end of the track near Stavlo as well. There's your track information up on the screen. 6.9 kilometres long, 26 degrees track temperature, and that track temperature is only going to continue to rise as we go further and further into this race. It is a morning session, so we will be getting warmer and warmer throughout the race. Hello everybody, my name is Paul Smith. Alongside me in the commentary booth is the one and only high-flying Chaz Draycott from the weekend, and don't forget as well as Fanbello trackcam22.com for all your cameras. But we're here, it's another endurance event, and Chaz, we love these endurance events, don't we, because they mix up the season and give some people an opportunity to score big.
Yeah, they do, and I mean, I've used the phrase different bag quite often, and this is certainly one of those moments to use it, because some of these drivers, like the Williams guys, and there we go, already name dropping the fact that these lot, they come from a background in iRacing where endurance racing is their thing. Some of these drivers are really fantastic when it comes to the sprint racing. They know when to make the moves and how to move forward very quickly. But the Williams cars are just the absolute driving force at the moment when it comes to these enduro rounds. However, the Pure Sims guys have really had them hot on their heels, haven't they?
Yeah, they certainly have. And we'll look at the championship standings in just a moment here. But as I mentioned, the endurance races, of course, we had the Spa 24 Hours a couple of months ago, so plenty of these drivers took part in that. So plenty of experience in the endurance races. But there we go, the graphics working now. Marina Sarica leading your Pro Drivers Championship for the Williams Esports team. But look at how close it is. Just 39 points between him and Michael Avdoka. George McClare, what a season he's been having as well, up there in third place ahead of Pete Harrod. Josh Thompson working his way through the field after having a couple of issues earlier on in the season. Alex Arana, you'll notice, down in 6th place. That's after picking up a couple of penalties last week. Ross McFarlane, Christian Rose, Harold Sadler and Cal Moore round out your top 10 of your pro standings. But that's your pros. Pro-Am, however, Chaz, is just as close here.
Pro-Am is always one of the absolute highlights of the World GT Championship. Since they started doing the 3 categories just a season or so ago. It's been absolutely spot on. Adam Watson, though, top of the championship at the moment. He actually sent me a picture earlier today. He's got a wonderful print of an Audi R8 LMS GT3 car driving around the Nürburgring, delivered to him, and it's a great bit of kit. And he knows I'm a huge fan of that car. Mike Horder in the McLaren is in second place, only 4 points ahead of Ethan Bass, with Daniel Lee only 8 points back, and then 1 point behind him is Chris Wood. So you can see there just how close it is, with Mike Gray, Mohamed Janko, Matt Bunn, Steve McCaffrey and Alex Neller all very much in tow. And we've seen, Paul, that just one round can really shake that order up.
Absolutely, and the next standings we're looking at, which is the AM standings, this has been a bit more stable, with Dave Powell at the top ahead of John Roberts. Those two have switched between the two of them, but not far behind is Chris Byram in third place. So he's still hanging around with an opportunity of getting a championship win here. Tony Draper in just 5 points behind him, Lars van Rijn, Matt Draker, Morgan Butler there down in 7th. It's been a mixed bag for him really this season, with Michael Blake, Gareth Baker and Ryan Crowther in your top 10. Pro teams, this is still quite close at the top of your standings, and then even further down, SimSports Racing USA have changed position with Paceworks Esports Cobalt.
Yeah, it does shuffle around quite a lot here. A lot of these teams running all 3 cars, so any bunch of points that they get over the course of a race meeting can really help them out. And you'll see, even tonight, I mean, going into to next week when we have another 3-race sprint meeting, this may be very different once again. I mean, the 2 Fitstyle teams doing a great job there in 3rd and 4th. Pure Sim still chasing down Williams, and that gap is still not really opened up that much, has it?
It certainly hasn't, and really close between those teams out there on track. Now, your Pro-Am Teams Championship is interesting because the 2 Boosted teams have actually switched positions. It's now the Boosted Motorsport team in first place, but not that far ahead of their sister team of the SimSport outfit. They're in second place. Third place, again, not that far behind them, is Team Mad. So you can see how close the Pro-Am Championship is at the front of the standings. msignsuk.com, they're hanging on to the coattails of those top 3. And then Team Lizard Mudsport, big gains for them in the last round at Motegi, with Paceworks Esports, P1 Racing, KRD Motorsport, Century Sim Racing and XVR rounding out your standings here. Really, really close championship, and we'll show where we are. That's the schedule. So we're here at Spa-Francorchamps for one of the endurance races, and then Imola next time out for 3 sprint races. That's next week, you won't want to miss that. Then a break, and then we're on to the home stretch of Circuit Barcelona de Catalunya, Circuit de la Sarthe, and then Indianapolis Road to finish off the season here, Chaz. But we're coming up towards the business end of the championship. We're getting towards the important stage, and really these drivers you'll have drivers wanting to secure top 10 in the championship, top 5 for some, but those that are fighting for the top of whatever championship they're in have really got to start getting some high scoring results here.
Yeah, definitely. Every driver in the series will have their own sort of goals, like you say, maybe a top 5 or a top 10 or even a podium in certain classes. And it's the fact that these guys, like you say, at the very, very top of the order, there's so much of a pinch point in terms of the gaps at the top of the standings that they have to be very careful for any little result that just gets hindered slightly in each race, and especially when we come to these sprint rounds as well. I mean, with double reverse grid in one meeting, then they have so much to think about in just being careful making their way forward. Certain drivers are better at doing it cleanly. Some of them get involved in a few little taps here and there, and that actually ends up costing them more because they'll get a penalty which shifts them further down the order when it comes to the next round. So the fact that this championship does have so many variables like this, it just makes it very different to any of the others that we get to see. It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. just a few points of order before we carry on. There are a few drivers on the naughty step here today. Adam McNally picked up a penalty from Motegi. Alex Arana, that's one that is a big one in terms of the pro standings. He's picked up a penalty, so he's banned from qualifying. Same with Adam McNally. Bradley Burns, who isn't here this week, so he won't be serving that. Harold Stadler, he's been a high-performing driver for the Fitstye outfit. He's got a qualifying penalty. James Whitehouse as well. Unfortunately, series admin Matt Bunn still can't serve his qualifying ban because he's not taking part today, and he's going to miss Imola as well, which is not going to be good. Paolo Munoz, who we haven't actually seen here today. Oh no, he is in the session, so he is here today. So he's serving his qualifying ban, and Simon Field as well, another driver serving the qualifying ban. So that's the points of order out of the way.
One big naughty step, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. We're heading towards the end of qualifying here, Chaz, and we're seeing those top three of Sarika, Thompson and McClay in qualifying. Interesting though is the next bunch of drivers, and I'm looking from 4th down to 9th, are all Pro-Am drivers. Yeah,
actually, just looking at it now, Adam Watson in 4th place, Michael Gray 5th, Mohamed Janko, Steve McCaffrey, Daniel Lee and Alex Neller. So the majority of the top 10 made up with Pro-Ams here, and we saw last time out as well, and even at Daytona earlier on in the season, we had Adam Watson 2nd in most of the race behind Josh Thompson, and he was looking like he was very, very close to, well, taking a win almost if Josh had any issues, but of course that round got called off.
Well, that's it. Yeah, Adam seems to really come out for these endurance events and really does do well for these ones. So the last few seconds, is about 3 minutes remaining for these drivers to get qualifying times in. Now, one thing to note about the whole qualifying order as it stands at the moment, it's a morning session, the track is always getting hotter. That will affect those pro drivers because they're the last ones out on track, because I don't know if you want to explain the qualifying format here, Chaz, but it's the amateurs who go out first, then the Pro-Ams, and then the pros. Yeah,
so they decided to split the session up into 3 sections, just because of the fact that there's a bit of a talent variation in this series, and you get that in a lot of leagues as well. So what they wanted to do was group the 3 of them. So the AM drivers, they're not out on circuit holding up the pro drivers, and of course it's not harming their laps either with them having to jump out of the way, to be honest. So it works better like this, that they have the AMs, then the Pro-Ams, and then the pros, just to keep it all nice and divided. And it means that, well, everyone gets a clean lap in, essentially, or hopefully. You'd have your fingers crossed anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll bring up the track here on screen and look at the conditions. So it's already gone up 1 degree in centigrade as the track temperature just from when we started this broadcast. So that tells you what it's like. Only partly cloudy skies as well. So that track will heat up quite a bit throughout this race. 20 km/h winds as well for these drivers to contend with. So they'll be affected by that slightly out there on track. But we're getting to the business end. We're starting this race heading down to Eau Rouge Radion. What type of challenge is that for these drivers with cold tyres?
Well, the thing is as well, because it's downhill and it starts to tighten at the bottom of the hill, it's just accelerating so many factors of these things, not just the speed of the cars. Obviously, they're going to be arriving there very quickly. They'll have to make decisions a lot more sharply as well. And then, of course, if the car does get away from you, there's less room with all the other cars around you to make those corrections. And we've seen drivers overdo it. I mean, that's the main thing that we get at Radion, isn't it? Drivers will then get over the crest of the hill, the car will break away, and they'll either overcorrect it or undercorrect it. So either way, once it breaks away, we're going to see cars going off, and it just depends on which wall they're going to hit, I think, because it's pretty much impossible to save from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So many times you see cars spinning off to the inside wall and then getting bounced across the track, and that can cause serious carnage. But right now, let us bring you Your starting grid up on screen then, it is Morena Sarica for the Williams Esports team. A 1-2 for them at the front ahead of Josh Thompson. George McClay, 3rd place, and then the best of your Pro-Ams, Adam Watson in 4th place for that Paceworks Esports Cobalt car. Michael Gray in 5th ahead of Mohamed Janko. Then Steve McCaffrey with Daniel Lee in 8th place. Alex Neller, the Ford driver, in 9th ahead of Carl Moore in 10th. Ross McFarlane and Tony Draper is your top amateur driver here on the grid. Mike Horder ahead of Christian Rose with Ben Gregory and Tom Jacobs down there in 16th. 17th for Cam Dance ahead of Chris Byram. Morgan Butler ahead of Lars van Rijn. That is on row 10. Row 11 for Simon Underhill and Michael Blake. Matt Woodhouse, another one of the Team Mad cars there, alongside his teammate with Ethan Bass. Adam Hedgecock ahead of Chris Woods. So McLaren's not faring too well here with Kieran Chung and Matt Dracup. Dean Powell ahead of Gavin Baker with John Roberts and Niall Crowther. Alex Arana then, the first of your drivers with a penalty, qualifying ban. Michael Evdoka will not actually be racing here today. He was trying to get a temporary setup to race here today, but unfortunately that wasn't working out for him, so he's missing out on that. Paulo Munoz and Ben Hackerson with Harold Sadler, Simon Field and James Whitehouse rounding out your 38 car grid.
It's going to be an absolute corker of an event. 2 Williams cars in the front row. George McClay, very impressive up there as well with Adam Watson. Mohamed Janko also impressing me there as well. I must say, actually, Jacobs has done a good job there to be up in 16th. He's been struggling a little bit in qualifying this season, but he'll be happy to be inside the top 20. There's a couple of drivers up there as well that'll be very pleased to join him. And you mentioned Michael Evdoka's temporary setup, and I'm not going to go into it too much, but it involves an ironing board.
Yes, it certainly did. I saw the pictures of it, and it was interesting, intriguing to say the least. But the drivers heading round towards the bus stop chicane, they are not going to be going green after the bus stop chicane. It's after La Source, so watch for Morena Sarica to come out of La Source and absolutely floor the throttle into the Axminster and really give it some down in towards Eau Rouge Radion. Rest of your drivers coming through. I'm hearing little bits of contact as well.
Yeah, I just heard that too. And a funny one as well, don't forget recently iRacing implemented the pit lane sirens. You can hear that as the pace car goes in. Look at Janko, he's ready to go there, hanging out on the left-hand side. A little bit naughty if you ask me. He needs to get back in line and make sure that he doesn't step out of line in more way than one there. But here we go, Paul. 1 hour, 45 minutes, ready to go.
Yep, around La Source they go then, and Sarica's not going straight away. He's still holding them. Now he's going. We're going to see the green flag. Barney, the flag man. Away we go. 1 hour, 45 minutes of racing. Look at that field swarming through. Are we going to get through?
Oh,
no, we're not. There's an accident. Big accident. Ethan Bass is involved in that as well. He's been spinning.
The track hasn't been blocked by the look of it. Oh no, there is cars off at the back. We've got a Ford around as well.
We've got a car on its side, one of the boosted cars. That's a big accident. And yeah, caution flag is out here. So we'll try and have a look at what on earth happened there. So that was Watson.
He was around and he was trying to hold the brakes. And then Horder got into him as well, and there was a Ferrari involved. I believe that's Tony Draper. And then there was another little collision after that as well at the back of the field. So many of them got involved. I think Harold Stadler also hitting Draper again there. And that's just where the massive bottleneck was. So here he's on board with Tony Draper then, and we'll see what happens as he gets to the top of the hill here, Paul.
Well, we feared this would happen, and unfortunately it did happen. And Tony Draper, your best starting amateur driver, all of a sudden, where do you go? There's nowhere for you to go there. Absolutely nothing that Tony Draper could do. He tries to get going. He's trying to get going, and then bang, from behind. Oh. Even more contact. We'll try and have a look at what happened with Mike Horder in all of that as well. He was one of your drivers involved with Boosted in the McLaren.
I think he was the first person to get to Watson and send him into space shuttle status. Here it is, just that touch. And I think it's just because the two cars, they clipped wheels really quickly. Obviously, there was a massive speed differential between the McLaren and the Audi, and the sim picking that up and sending him to 30,000 feet. Ethan Bass has his own incident by the look of it before he even gets to the top. Let's have a look what happens here.
He's losing it through the right there. Oh, into the tyres. So he had his own little incident. Oh my goodness. Now that was
that Hackerson?
That was a car coming out. I don't know where it was coming out. Another one of the cars involved was James Whitehouse. So which of the Boosted cars is that?
That's
Simon
John Roberts.
Field? No, it's
John Roberts on his side and Simon Field on the McLaren.
Well, I mean, we've got a while to unpick all of this. So are you sure that's John Roberts? I can't see him on my list here.
Let me have a quick check.
Oh yes, I've got him. Yep, we've got him. Let's have a look at what happened, because this was a separate incident that John had. So there's Ethan losing it.
Oh, look at Hackerson in the background.
Oh, that's gone into Kieran Shaw.
I think potentially as Hackerson rejoins, because if Ben Hackerson runs really wide through the crest of the hill, although John's on the right.
Yeah, we're just slowing it down a little bit. So you're seeing the car. So yeah, Hackerson is coming back on from the pit exit. Oh no, it's a car behind.
Yeah, Whitehouse gets into Stadler, which then pitches them across, and then Hackerson gets involved. Great avoidance by Simon Field, by the way. He'll be thinking, what the heck was all that about? But John Roberts really was the unlucky victim there, because it was Whitehouse gets into the back. There's a red Ferrari just 2 cars ahead. It's all suddenly going to check up, and Whitehouse is just going to tap the back. And there they go, into Roberts. And then Hackerson, you see as well, gets caught up, and Simon Field just sneaks through like, thanks, lads.
Well, that has had significant effect to the standings here. So Marina Sirica is at the head of the field. Has he caught up the safety car? I don't see it in front of him, so I don't know where the safety car is. Yeah, we're under a yellow flag then. And these drivers all trying to get tyre temperature. So there's Mohamed Janko behind Michael Gray. Michael Gray was doing quite a bit of weaving. Alex Neller through all of this is up to 6th place from 9th. So in fact, let's bring up positions gained up on the side here. And of course it doesn't show the names. That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
At least we know what class they're in.
Yes, at least we know what class they're in, absolutely. But yeah, I was wanting to see what positions were gained. But still, number of drivers have been into the pits then. So Adam Watson, Tony Draper, John Roberts, Harold Stadler and Mike Horder. Well, Mike Horder is still in the pits.
Yeah.
So he might have not have selected his fast repair. The fuel limited here as well, aren't they, Chaz? So
yes.
You won't be able to make it without 2 more stops.
Yeah, there's 2 mandatory pit stops in the endurance races that the World GT Championship have this season, and the limit in the fuel actually just makes that a little bit more exciting, because it means that even if some of these drivers tried to 1 stop, if that wasn't written in the rules, then they wouldn't be able to make that anyway. So it's just a sort of guarantee that that'll happen. There is Moreno Sirica behind the safety car. But that was a hell of a moment at the top of the hill, and like you say, Paul, I think we slightly expected that with the cold tyres.
He's holding in his clutch here, is Moreno. So doing as much fuel saving as possible here to try and get themselves just that little bit more of a window as to when they can make their first pit stop here. If you can save as much fuel as possible here, then you're looking really, really good for a really short final stop.
Yeah, that's it. You need to just shorten down the time as best you can. We all know that these endurance races are all about the less amount time. Great English, Chaz. Wow. The least amount of time spent in the pits as possible. So all you need to do is just make sure that every little bit of track time that you're using you're using to your best capacity. You can see Mohamed Janko having a bit of a weave in and out there in the wonderful Vulcan Sim Racing Audi. I must admit, that livery got changed a couple of weeks ago, and wow, does it look good. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. It looks like what we'd call a realistic livery, doesn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
Where you probably would see that on a real car.
Yeah, potentially you would see that absolutely out there. Is a few of the liveries are striking and really catch your eye. And so, what is it? Every endurance race that we cover of this series, we always get onto the subject of liveries. I don't know what it is, but we seem to do that. There's a few cars heading to pit road, by the way, at the back of it. Christian Rose is one of us. Simon Field, Matt Draker is another one as well.
Looks like a bit of damage to the front of the Team Lizard Ferrari. I only know that because I put the logo on the bonnet myself and it's knocked out of shape. But there is also...
missing his bonnet.
Yeah, there's definitely no logo out of shape there because there's no logo to look at. But this is what you were mentioning earlier, Paul. They have to do the endurance pits. There's the yellow pen. Absolutely love it. Because they're using the endurance pits, it's obviously all the way to the end. Don't show Ashley Blake Hood this footage as they go around the right-hander there. And then back down the hill towards what is probably going to be the majority of the pit garages that are used here.
Yes, so, as you say, we've got Simon Field heading this gaggle of cars, Matt Draker, Christian Rose, Ethan Bass and Ben Hackerson. In this championship, you do get a fast repair, so you get a free repair here in this race. So I'm sure these drivers would not have wanted to have used that at this stage of the race, but it is good that you've actually got it. And hello, Christian Rose taking tyres.
Interesting. And you wouldn't think
Ben
that
Hackerson as well.
You wouldn't think they'd go for that at this point of the race, because at the end of the day they've only done about a third of a lap at full pace. But well, I suppose some of them they stopped, didn't they?
Any sort of advantage that you can get towards the end of the race, even if it's tyres that are 2 laps younger, you're going to take it, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I suppose so. It's especially with it being such a long lap around here as well. I mean, even obviously I was at the Nordschleife on the weekend, and the tyre difference there, just 1 lap around the circuit, made such a difference to the life of the tyre, and that's something you really have to consider in this, because if you're trying to overrun it on fuel, for example, and just go 1 lap longer, you've got to save more if you're going to do that than you would at a circuit such as the Road Atlanta, for example, that we're going to in this championship. So, you know, rather than like a 2-minute 20 lap, you'd be looking at like a 1-minute 20 lap. But yeah, these drivers, I think we're going to see a lot of them come in at the same point in this race. But that's going to make it more interesting, because we may get a bit more of an indication then as who's taking tyres and who's not. A lot of them you will expect not to take tyres in the first pit stop. Some of them may leave that till the end and just see what it's like till they get there and just think, maybe we can stretch this out to the end. But again, it's the beauty of endurance racing, isn't it? You never know what they're going to do.
Absolutely. Whilst we've got the chance here, because actually I think the lights are going off. Yes, they are off. So we will be going back to the restart then. And these drivers will get themselves prepared. And they go after the bus stop chicane, because the finish line, the timing line, is actually on the Grand Prix layout.
Yeah, it's interesting how things work like that at Spa, isn't it? And endurance races bring out these strange little quirks of certain circuits that we know and love. But Moreno Sorica is going to be looking for a nice clean restart here to get away from Josh Thompson. But at the same time, he's going to hope that he can drag him with him a little bit, because George McClay, just behind him there in the number 33 TechSense Fitstyle Motorsport Ferrari, is going to be stuck up right behind them. Michael Gray, Mohamed Janko also in there. It's like Josh knew we were watching him then, flashing his lights just to say hello, Mr. Camera. But we can expect a good start from the BMWs. At the end of the day, they know this thing inside out. However, the guys behind every single week are getting better and better at keeping it very close to them. So we've got a very intriguing race ahead, a chunk of it taken away by the safety car. We'll be back underway in just a sec.
Yeah, so we've lost about 6 minutes there then to the safety car, but we will be back up and running. And the thing is, it's going to be a single file restart here.
Oh, is he not going yet?
Well, actually, no, it's not giving the green flag, so it is going to give it down the endurance straight, which is good to see. So, yeah, the finish line is actually normally there. So, yeah, that caught me out.
Yeah,
I'll
me.
give you that. But we'll get that back to full screen, and then we're going then. So Sarika and Thompson at the front of the field. They'll be working together on that restart. Downhill, plunge downhill towards Eau Rouge. Radion once again. Bit of a gap at the front of your field compared to the rest of them. McCaffrey getting caught out. And here comes Thompson on his teammate. Of course, no team orders between the two Williams drivers. Great slipstream from Josh. Can he get to the front? Sarika holding that inside line. You can run around the outside. It gives you the inside for the second part of Lecombe. And then Malmedy is on the outside. Sarika stays in front. Then Michael Gray and George McClay were also going side by side up into Lecombe. Rest of field working the way through Rivage for the fourth time this race. Through Jackie X Corner, it used to have no name, now it does. It's Jackie X Corner is that one as they go downhill towards Pouon, and you just do not get the scale of how steep this track is in the sim or on television. You have to go there to see just how steep this track is. It is incredible. So go to Fania. We'll be calling it Fania. We don't call it Piff Paff on the Racebook TV as they go around in towards Campos, the right-hander, and then out again, and it is through Stavelot onto the old circuit then. This is where the old circuit rejoins back to the Grand Prix circuit. So the drivers going away through. Cam Dance is duking it out with one of his stablemates of Tom Jacobs in front.
Yeah, Tom's had a good first lap or so, obviously getting a couple of positions from that incident earlier. Mohamed Janko just in front of him though. Oh, big twitch through Blanchimont there. That's a scary, scary corner in these GT3 cars. A lot of the drivers run the rear end very loose, especially on these rear engine machines as well. They really do want to swap ends on you. But Janko got a slow down on the restart as he went up through Radion. He ran very wide and had to slow down on the exit. That is Adam Hedgecock. Oh, and there's contact with Chung and Byram. Paulo Munoz in there as well. Byram tries to get out of the way as best he can. And it's a real shame that just that contact there looked like Chung was being a little bit impatient behind him. There may have been something else that led up to it, but unfortunately Byram's the one that really loses out there, Paul.
Yeah, it didn't help that you had Hedgecock having to get out of the way because he was serving the slowdown penalty, it looked like, as down or up the Kemmel Straight they go. And look at the speed of that Ford! You've got the battle at the front, we'll get to that in a second, but Alex Niller to the inside, 2 places, up to 3rd place in that Ford GT.
We saw him have an absolute belter last week at Motegi. He was an absolute joy to watch. But look at that Ford go. It may be from about 1948 in comparison to the other cars, but it certainly does fly at the hands of Alex Neller, the boosted motorsport machine, doing a wonderful job. And he's just left the guys behind him now to just battle amongst themselves. He's saying, you lot can just do what you want. I'm just going to drag this Ford up after those BMWs. And of course, don't forget, Paul, he was fighting with the Williams cars and defending from them last week, of course, as a result of the reverse grid. And here is, oh my Gray, what a slide, Sunshine. Great save as well. And Ross McFarlane says, thank you very much, I'll have that for free as well. He's now onto the back of Steve McCaffrey.
Yeah, Mike Gray, hats off to you, Sunshine. That is an incredible save through Pouon. We've got to see that one back again. And he has done a sensational job there. Tokyo Drift style through. And it's on the curb.
Oh,
it's on the curb. Look at the angle of attack of that car. He keeps a hold of it and keeps it going in that XVR car.
That's one of the quirks of the BMW. It's always been known for being good at high-speed cornering. It's got that humongous wing making sure that the back end is planted, but if you over-rotate the front, the back will want to swap around on you, and it just looks like when he turned it in there, a little bit too much curb has helped exaggerate that factor with that car. Just behind him there is Daniel Lee. He's got Carl Moore behind him, and then Mohamed Janko shortly behind him as well. Cam Dance has got ahead of Tom Jacobs. We know how fast Cam is in the 27 Ferrari. But at the front of the field, it's Marino Sarika and Josh Thompson breaking away. Good shot here on board with Carl Moore, though. Just shows you the fact that even around a track like Spa-Francorchamps, it can certainly compress in the midfield, can't it, Paul?
Certainly can, and you're getting these gaggles of cars, these battle packs going on. Downhill will stay on board. Oh, this steep hill. Oh, more. The back end wanted to step out on him, so he had to back out of it. Luckily for him, he had nobody behind him to put the pressure on. McFarlane in front, going side by side with McCaffrey. And up ahead, up into 5th place. That Mercedes has got incredible runs, hasn't it?
It has indeed. I remember when the Mercedes first came out on the iRacing service, and it was season 2 of the World GT Championship, where Nickel Foggy took the title, and all season long, everybody, including Ash Sutton as well, who was one of his main title rivals, was just so scared of that car in a straight line. I mean, people like Ash would try and outmaneuver it around the corners and get the job done, but down the straights, at circuits like Road America, nobody had a chance. Nickel Foggy had a real handle on that car, and Ross McFarlane is another one of those drivers that does as well. You can see the skid marks on the exit of Huon there. It's a very scary corner, but Ross now, with a little bit of clear air between him and George McClay, will be looking to break away as quickly as possible.
But down in your order, Lars van Rijn, Alex Arana. What a recovery drive from Alex Arana, by the way. I'm sure helped out by those incidents at the start. He's up to 16th already. That is incredible.
That's scary. I mean, last time I looked, he was 19th, and that was about half a lap ago. So Alex Arana really on a mission. We know that he's quick, of course. We do say it week in, week out, but even still, the fact that he would have started down, I believe he was about 33rd, 34th with the fact he didn't set a qualifying time. So what a great drive so far. And, well, an hour and 26 minutes to go. He's got plenty more time to gain further and further. He's got 2 BMWs in front of him there in the form of Michael Blake and Ben Gregory, and someone else with a BMW in front, albeit his teammate, is Josh Thompson in 2nd place.
Yeah, they're going downhill in towards Eau Rouge Radion once again. You don't want to be too close going into this corner. You want to have a little bit of a gap. You can see Josh is having to just work the wheel a little bit, and now he's getting that slipstream. The problem that people have been finding with this BMW in this slipstream, and this will really affect them at Circuit de la Sarthe, and he's backing off. He's trying to save fuel here, is Josh. That is clever. That is really good thinking from Josh. Save as much fuel behind your teammate, get the jump that way in the pit stops. But here, up in towards the top of the Kemmel Straight, not so it won't affect them as much, but at Circuit de la Sarthe, these BMWs are really going to be affected because they have such a hard limiter so early in the rev range compared to other cars.
Yeah, definitely, and I think a lot of the teams would have been fiddling with the setups as much as possible to try and negate that effect as well. And we know that there's a lot of very good setup makers in the field as well, and the likes of Craig's setup shop as well, that I know a lot of these teams do tend to use. So it's nice that it adds that extra little factor as well. Not only do we have, of course, the balance of performance, the fact that all these cars can be very different to one another. We've got front engine cars, rear engine cars, mid engine cars, you name it. Alex Nella, though, he's in a very much mid engine car, holding off another one of them, which is George McClay's TechSense Fitstyle Motorsport Ferrari, number 33. They're going to have to be thinking about the fact that Ross McFarlane won't be too far behind them, though, and I think if they have any sort of battle, which isn't looking likely at the moment because Nella's got good pace, they could hold each other up and give it a bit of an advantage, I should say, to McFarlane. Through Blanchard on the go, very scary corner that is, onto the brakes into the bus stop. And again, Paul, the elevation change you mentioned earlier that you can't really sort of fathom that much in the sim or even from television. That chicane itself has an unbelievable change of elevation, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It rises up on the middle of that one as they head on through. So 2 leaders you see are disappearing off down the straight there, and the rest of them, this gaggle of cars, working their way down, launching downhill. Eau Rouge Radion up over the top there, and Nella, he just seems to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle here at the moment, it appears. And I've never seen that shot before. As we go up there, as now Daniel Lee, having a look on the inside of Michael Gray, and through he goes. the Pro-Am driver on Pro-Am driver. This is important for the Pro-Am Championship because Nella is going to be scoring big if he finishes where he is right now in third.
Yeah, they've just got so many implications championship-wise, and don't forget, they give points at the halfway point of the race as well, based on your position. Oh no, they used to. They do not anymore. So you have to complete the race and get the points at the very end. That's my mistake, and yeah, I should know that. I was an admin. But here is the number 6. Oh, contact that really didn't. Again, that's the second time Michael Gray's been sideways around P1 today. And then you got a bit of assistance that time round, which I'm sure was completely unwelcomed. But this time, he had a little bit of a tap there with, I believe that was Carl Moore, was it? Yeah, it was. It was Carl Moore. I'm used to seeing Carl in an Audi, but
no,
yeah,
he's been in BMW all season.
Yeah, he was Audi last year. It's Kieran Chung's number 9 I was thinking of because it was upside down. So there he is down the inside. He gets a little bit of a wobble on, but you just can't really get 2 cars around there very easily, can you, Paul?
No, you certainly can't. It's not a traditional overtaking spot, really. Is P1. So able to get ahead. You saw the flashing headlights of unhappiness from Michael Gray, and they're working their way through. The man who started this race in 4th place, by the way, who started the whole shenanigans at the top of the radio area, is Adam Watson. He had his pit stop, and right now he's in 18th place. So considering that he caused a huge accident. Oh, Tony Draper's involved with something. So too Kieran Chung.
Oh, well, just mentioned him a moment ago. It was almost like I put some sort of curse on him from long distance. He has got one of the. It was the Renvale car behind him. I think that may have been Harold Stadley. Here's what happened then. Through Blanchimont they go. You have Tony Draper just in there with him. Tony running a bit wide through Blanchimont. Into the bus stop. Chung stays to the inside. Oh, Draper loses it, and into Hedgecock as well. Hedgecock got a bit lucky there because he didn't actually get turned around by the contact. It more just sort of poked him enthusiastically into the bus stop, didn't it?
Certainly did. We'll have a look quickly from Draper. He catches the grass. See how wide he runs there, and he catches the grass here on the left-hand side, on the brakes. Nothing really that Draper could do there, but collects 2 drivers.
Once it gets away from you there under brakes, it's an absolute nightmare. And I know a lot of people, most people, would agree that they'd rather a car be unsettled or break away from you when you're on the throttle rather than when you're on the brakes, because you're not just trying to get it going, you're trying to get it slowed down. Paolo Munoz's having a look down the inside of Tony Draper there, but it didn't work for him. In front of him now is, I believe, Pete It is Christian Rose. Sorry, yeah, Pete Newman has also been driving a similar looking Ferrari, but he's now on the back of Adam Hedgecock. There is Chris Byram. Oh, Gavin Baker, never mind, I'm really getting the names wrong today. Gavin Baker making his first pit stop of the race, but very early on, to be honest, Paul, only 25 minutes in.
I think he may be getting repairs from that contact at the bus stop chicane that he had, of course, don't forget. So yeah, he's had a pit stop. He's got going again, but way down the order, down there in 36th.
Whoa! Stephen McCaffrey take a bow through through Blanchimont there. That car was absolutely gone. If that was me, I would have just let go of the wheel and signed my name on the dotted line to Blanchimont, and the devil could have had my soul for that one. That was absolutely sideways. I have no clue how he brought that thing back, and I think brought it back from the dead is probably the phrase I'd use. Ross McFarlane, though, he's now going to be getting excited at the sight of George McClay and Alex Nella bunching up in front of him. Here is, I believe, Steve McCaffrey going through Blanchimont. Watch this. Car's away, completely gone. Just somehow, usually the car wiggles a lot more than that when you get it saved, but he just said, no, absolutely no. That thing is not breaking away from me. I've got this under control. And he remains in 6th place.
Here comes McFarlane then to the inside of George McClay at Lecombe, but McClay's going to fight this one out around the outside. That gives you the inside for the second part of the chicane. Now Malmedy, the right-hander, he's going to carry the speed on the exit is McClay. He needs to try and get in front of McFarlane, but it's not going to happen. Into the hairpin. Around the outside, the McClay, they're still going side by side between the two of them. Jack Hicks corner. McFarlane could get on the power earlier on the exit, both giving each other room. That's good, fair racing, and that's McFarlane finally in front of George McClay, and McCaffrey behind them is looking to try and pick up the pieces here. Yeah,
that was a nice move by McFarlane, just clever stuff, and fair racing from George McClay as well. It does indeed mean that Alex Neller has now broken away somewhat from them, and Steve McCaffrey will be looking to try and get the better of George McClay, who has a slide through the Fanny chicane, and Ross McFarlane's checking out of there in that Mercedes, highest placed Mercedes in the field at the moment. We've got 4 manufacturers in the top 5 and 5 in the top 6, which is good to see. The 2 BMWs at the very front.
I think you mentioned the highest placed Mercedes as a sort of follow-on from you commentating at the Nürburgring weekend. He's the only Mercedes in the field.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, we did have a race that was pretty much dominated by Mercedes early on, but of course it wasn't won by one in the end, spoiler alert. But Adam Hedgecock then, he's now still involved in this battle with, I believe, is Paulo Munoz around him, or is that...
Yep, just ahead of him. You've got Draper behind, Stadler behind them as well. Stadler, I mean, he had that penalty to start with, then got caught up in the opening incident, and now he's down there in 26. He will not be happy with how this today is going. Tony Draper looking to the inside.
Oh.
Can't quite get the move done there, but he'll try and get the cut back here. But this isn't the place to make the move here. You now just sit back, don't you, and wait for the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, definitely. But I think he can see Harold Stadler and then Ethan Bass behind him, and he's thinking, no thank you, I don't want to get caught up in that. Down the inside into La Source though. Nice stuff. Adam Hedgecock keeps up the pace around the outside. Draper runs wide into him. Tony's not making many friends in this race so far. He had a bit of contact early with Hedgecock as well, of course, under brakes. Manages to just tuck in behind as they go up through Eau Rouge and Radillon. Over the crest of the hill, careful the car doesn't get away. Looked like Draper's car was maybe a little bit sideways there, but it doesn't seem to have lost too much ground. Stadler now tucked up in the slipstream, so too is Ethan Bass, and the very menacing looking Renvale Fittstein Motorsport Audi just behind him. The 2 Ferraris go side by side down towards Les Combes. Draper comes over a little bit on the brakes, makes the apex though. Stadler scared a little bit wide by that there, and who wouldn't be? But somehow Draper holds on to that position.
I thought there was maybe a little bit of door rubbing there going on between the two of them. So maybe, just maybe, the two of them make a slight bit of contact with Draper coming back across on him. Michael Gray, by the way, is starting to make a little bit of a comeback onto Daniel Lee. He's got Cam Dance now. A great drive from Cam so far. He's working his way through, and he's now up into 10th place, and he can see the next 3 targets for him in front.
Yeah, that's it. When you've got a little train of cars like that in front of you, and you know that you can try and pick off your targets one by one, depending on the confidence that you've got within yourself to do that, it's quite a rewarding sight to have. But at the moment, still trying his very, very best here just to hold on to that car. Cam Dance literally living up to his name. He does make that Ferrari dance, in all honesty. He's a very exciting driver to watch. Right behind Mike Gray now. Daniel Lee just ahead. Quite a bit of curb there for Cam out the final corner, but he seems okay. Nice and settled down the straight onto another lap. An hour and 15 minutes to go, Paul. Just now we've hit the half-hour mark, and again that's flown by very quickly indeed.
Absolutely. Only on to lap 12 here because of course the caution period that we had at the start of the race, where we lost the best part of 6.5 minutes under safety car. But the plunge downhill now up, and look at the run that Dance has got here. This is a great run through Eau Rouge Radillon on the Kemmel Straight, using the slipstream. Which way do you go? He goes left. It goes right, should I say. He'll go to our left now when I'm looking at it on the cameras. But he's braking early for Les Combes, which is a little bit of a surprise to me.
Thought Mike Gray had turned that into an overtaking manoeuvre then. He was really late on the brakes, managed to carry some great speed and nearly got past Daniel Lee. But yeah, I was expecting Dance to really commit to that, especially with Alex Arana just behind him there in 11th place. He's now going to be seeing this battle and thinking, right, it's my go to pick off the targets now, Cam. If you're not going to get on with it, you're going to become the hunted now rather than the hunter. So that BMW bearing down on them as they go through Jackie Hicks. Not essentially, but through the corner, of course. And there you can see the gap. Paul, he loves that pen, But to be fair, rightly so, 1.9 seconds is a massive difference even around here.
Certainly is. So Arana, he's got the pace. He needs to be able to make his way through. If he wants to try and challenge his teammates and challenge them in the championship, he needs to at least get into that top 5 to get anything out of this championship. And he comes out of Campos into Stavolo once again. At the corner, onto the top speed section of the track. Blanchimont, the daunting corner. And he's going to look to the inside, and Cam Dance is not fighting that one. He's decided to just let him by here. So Arana up into 10th place now, and he's set his sights on Michael Gray next.
I think he was just considering the time he could lose there by really fighting with Alex Arana, and he thought, what I'll probably do is get behind Alex and try and follow him through once he inevitably makes the moves on the car in front. Obviously, Alex, one of the championship favourites going into this. A couple of penalties and poor meetings have cost him a lot of points. Here's Ross McFarlane now on the back of Alex Nella in the Ford GT, and Dennis Melcher in the chat has just asked us to show the Ford as well, so nicely timed. And good to see you as well, Dennis. Hope you are well. But look at this now, that Mercedes is such a menacing looking car, isn't it? Even the earlier iteration of it that iRacing has, such a good looking machine, and through surely is going to go Ross McFarlane.
Yeah, late onto the brakes there, and nice to see the World GT medical car driver joining us here on the chat. Thank you very much, Dennis. Hope you are well. But yeah, that's McFarlane up into 3rd. Now, the next thing I'm going to show, the graphic here, is the gap to the race leaders. 9.1 seconds Ross McFarlane needs to gain here. He's been in that battle, in that pack, for over half an hour here. He now needs to get his head down, try and pull away from these drivers behind, and start making inroads into your 2 leaders. But those leaders will not be easy to overtake. And speaking of overtake, Josh Thompson to the lead.
Interesting swap around here from the 2 Williams machines. I was just about to say, the fact they work together and they still put in laps faster than everybody else is what makes them such a formidable team. So here's on board with Josh Thompson, Moreno Sarica out of Huon.
Is this just a mistake?
Potentially on the brakes here into the final chicane.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
The back end gets away. It's a scary moment. I'm sure we've all had that happen once or twice. Well held though. And Josh Thompson now into the lead here, Paul.
I'm sure Josh will be, well, he'll be happy to find himself in the lead, but also won't be liking the fact that he's now lost his drafting buddy and is now going to be not saving as much fuel as he was before. But Daniel Lee and Alex Arana side by side. Arana looking to gain 2 positions on this lap. Around the outside, that gives him the ends. Oh, contact between the 2 of them. We'll have to have a look at that one. I think that was a little bit of a squeeze potentially, but we'll have a look in a second here.
I think that may have been 50-50-ish, maybe 60-40. It looked to me like Daniel Lee did close the gap, but at the same time it looked like Alex did try and swing it a little bit wider than necessary from the left-hand side of the circuit, just to open up that line out the final corner. So here we are then, runs a bit wide, and yeah, he's slightly in the middle of the road, but Daniel Lee doesn't leave all the room in the world. I don't particularly think that was on either of them more than the other there, because, like I say, Alex could have really hugged the inside line, as a lot of people would have, but at the same time, he was thinking about his own line into that final corner, and rightly so. You know, you want to get a good run out of there and try and get the advantage, but I think both of their intentions combined there didn't work. Speaking of intentions, Tom Jacobs looking at Mohamed Janko here. Janko dropped down a couple of places after the restart, after the safety car, because of a slowdown penalty, and now Tom Jacobs, and I'm sure Tom will be very happy, I know he's happy to be driving a red Ferrari this season. Tom is the biggest Ferrari fan that I know of, and to be racing for Renvale Fitzstein Motorsport is certainly working for him. He's been very, very quick in comparison to previous seasons. He's never really had the look on his side as Tom. But Janko, he's a driver I've not actually commentated on before this championship, Paul, but he's been very impressive, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been putting in some good performances, Mohamed, and great to see different names coming in that we wouldn't normally see on some of our broadcasts. And get some great racing from leagues like this. Of course, this is the World GT Championship. This is season 8 of the series. So that gives you an idea as just to how long they've been going with this championship. And if you do want more information about them, you can go over to their website, which is wgtc.uk. Find out more details. You probably won't find yourself in the championship this season, but it'll give you an idea as to what to expect and what to know in this championship. And it is a really good championship. Both myself and yourself, Chaz, have raced in this series.
Yeah, there's always somebody to race with in this championship, and now a bit further down the line from when we raced in it, they now have the 3 categories, and they've got Pro, Pram and Am, and it just gives everybody that chance and gives everybody something to fight for. It's not become one of these sort of trophy-giving championships like people do jest at, because I think it's a bit of an unfair judgment to make sometimes. Series do add extra classes in just so everyone's got something to fight for. They still have to at least try to work and get a bit of silverware, because I know that there's some series out there, they give awards for everything, this, that and the other, and again it does become a bit of a trophy giving contest. But here's Tom Jacobs. He wants his own trophy at this point from Mohamed Janko round the outside into Lecom. Tried this last time, doesn't just missing the initial turn in there, isn't he? It's just that Ferrari cannot bite in as well as the Audi could there on the optimum line, and I'm sure again we'll see him try that next time round if he doesn't have a go sooner.
Now, it wouldn't be a World GT Championship race broadcast without seeing this man that we're on board with, which is Morgan Butler, the amateur driver, and he's currently fighting with Daniel Lee. Behind these two, you've got Ben Gregory and the recovering Adam Watson as well. So this is a little 4-car train here. So you've got the msigns.uk.com car at the front of the train. You've got the SimSports Racing USA, UK again, USA car. You've got an independent in Ben Gregory, and then you've got the Paceworks Esports Cobalt car of Adam Watson at the back of this little gaggle of cars. And Adam trying his best to recover whatever he can from this race after that opening lap incident.
Yeah, Morgan, like I've been saying, has improved a lot in recent times after Pure Sims came about, and the guys have really been helping him. He's switched to the Audi as well midway through this championship for SimSports Racing USA. He's got Ben Gregory behind him now, though. Ben, we know, is a very feisty racer in that BMW. He's also very good at driving that BMW. I know that out of a lot of cars that Ben does drive, there's one of the Team Lizard Motorsport cars in the background.
Is that Crowther?
I think it could potentially be. Steve Burke is not here this evening, by the way.
John Roberts has stopped out on track as well. He's had a spin.
That's a shame for John. He's not having an easy night. It is Niall Crowther. I was just about to say, I hope Steve is well.
He's not gone to the pits, which is a surprise.
Yeah, not really sure what's going on. Yeah, he was going slow on the way in. I think he was getting out of the way, but I think he just took it a bit far as he went through the bus stop there and missed it out, because he would have got a slowdown for that.
Yeah. And
probably an unnecessary one. But here is the battle at the front there. Moreno Sorica still chasing down his teammate Josh Thompson. They've now got 10.6 seconds over Ross McFarlane, so that gap has extended further, which is only good news for these pair. And we saw this at Sebring, didn't we, at the first endurance round of the season, Paul, where the 2 Williams cars, well, the 3 of them as it was at the time, just broke away, and then the gloves were off after the final pit stop, and they could really fight from there. As we see the wonderful drive at the moment from one of the Texans Fitzline Motorsport Ferraris, Cam Dance. This was his move on Michael Gray.
Yep, look at the Kemmel straight, look at the run that Dance got the slipstream. You can hear him though, he's on the limit almost, on the limiter, down the inside. There's not much speed difference between the 2 of them there, the 2 cars, the Ferrari and the BMW. It just seems maybe 1, maybe 2 kilometres an hour for that BMW faster.
We've just had a bit of a wild moment there, Paul, just looking back, with Ben Gregory, Morgan Butler, Adam Watson and even Michael Blake. They're all trying to make moves on one another, and Watson has dropped behind Blake now. They were just going down into, I believe, Rivage, and Watson was trying it round the outside, got a bit of a wiggle on, and then as he went round to the right, there was a tiny bit of contact with Ben. I'm sure we'll have a look. Here we go. So Watson tries it around the outside. Butler was defending, and then Watson he squeezes the gap in, and Gregory runs a little bit wide. So unfortunately, the tap there. Well, to be fair, look, I'd say Watson got lucky that he didn't spin all the way around. What do you think?
And that second contact did help. It certainly did help in that one, as Gregory looking to the outside into the chicane. Then got the inside. We saw how this worked out for Verana. The two of them get together. They're locked together. Ben just not giving the space on the outside, and Michael Blake to the outside into La Source. Well, this crew of cars is giving us some real entertainment out here today. Watson now to the inside. He'll go past Blake here. He's going to slot in front of him here as they go downhill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Blake is somebody who can get really fired up if you annoy him. But look at the run that Watson gets in that Audi.
Absolutely flying Adam Watson, very, very quick indeed. One of the real standouts for me this season in that Audi R8 LMS. Michael Blake behind, now watching his mirrors for Morgan Butler. But at the moment, it's just about that BMW in the Audi as Ben Gregory crowds Adam Watson out there. Adam just going a bit deep into Les Combes, and now Michael Blake right behind him. He's flashing his lights. He's not happy, but in all honesty, I didn't see anything wrong with that. Butler down the inside of Blake. That was a little bit late from Morgan. They don't make contact though, side by side around there. Good stuff from Morgan though. He's got some really gutsy racing about him this season. Tiny bit of an overlap though through the left-hander. Down the hill they go towards Pouhon, and the order is still the same with these four cars. But what a great scrap we've got going on. Yeah, great stuff to see between these drivers as they head on through Pouhon. Once again, this is in the middle of your teens. That's 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. Daniel Lee was able to waltz away while these guys were duking it out, so that was a nice big amount of time gain for Daniel here in that battle as they carry on. And further down your order as well, Christian Russ, Simon Underhill pretty close together. This is turning out to be a day to forget for Christian Russ. He's been in the pits already in this race, so yeah, it definitely he's not had a season to remember as Christian. He mentioned last week that it was a meeting to forget then as well. Yeah, for sure. It was not the best, but we know that Christian is a very talented racer within iRacing. He's been around long enough to know what he's doing with these cars. At the moment, not the most straightforward of seasons for him. He was up there right away though, you know, he was scoring consistent points, but in the last couple of meetings it's just not gone his way. Simon Underhill, another driver as well, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. As they come out of turn one, the Source, Christian now getting ahead, and one more step up the order into the top 20 ever further. And here is I keep getting Kieran Chung and Carl Moore the wrong way around. It's very silly of me. It's number 6 and number 9 as well, so one of them's the right way up, one of them's not. But that's Alex Arana going through. Oh dear, oh dear. Tom Jacobs. What on earth has happened to him here? This is this is up at Les Combes, and he looks like he's got damage. Yeah, he's having to park the car, take the tour back to the pits. Let's see what happens with him with Janko. So he's with Janko here, isn't he? Yeah, he's just going along down the Kemmel Straight. I'm wondering if maybe he just over defends it into Les Combes or moves on the brakes. He's staying on the right hand side. Janko's got one hell of a run. Moves over on the brakes. Yeah, it was a bit of a sudden change of direction in all honesty. I mean, Janko, he was aiming to brake later and he shouldn't have had to get out of the way that hard, but yeah, it was 6 of one, half a dozen the other there, but I don't think Tom should have moved that aggressively in the braking zone, I'm afraid. He needed to commit. We'll try and have a look from Janko's point of view then. So here we are, on board with Mohammed. You can see the Ferrari. Yeah, so on the brake. Oh, I think, to be fair, Janko was also, he braked later and then realised that he was going to have to try and get out the way. Tried to cut to the inside just so at least there was a gap there,
and unfortunately ends up tagging Tom Jacobs.
Yeah, he was late on the brakes, wasn't he? It was, like I say, contributing little factors there between the pair of them. Tom moving to the left, Janko already being over there, and then missing his braking point himself. So it's a real shame that only one of them has come off from that. He'll feel a bit hard done by, will Tom Jacobs. But we're under an hour from the end of the race now, Paul, and 45 minutes in the books. We should be seeing more and more pit stops start coming through now. As
there's a swap right there, right as I switch to them. It's Sarika to the front ahead of Josh Thompson. They're actually catching a little bit of that traffic here in front of them. That is the 107 of Gavin Baker, who's in front of them here. So they're slowly catching up to back markers here, cars that have already been in the pits. In fact, Simon Field has been in the pits twice, so he's had his first of his planned stops as Simon, as they head on downhill. But Thompson back behind. Is that a little bit of strategy coming to play?
You never know with these boys. They certainly do work well together, and in being in such a top team as well, they know teamwork better than a lot of people. So it could be potentially, or it could just be the fact that when they do overtake each other or get enough slipstream to go past one another, they make sure that they don't lose time as a duo. They don't hold each other up. They just get on with the job and still try and move forward. They're 11 seconds ahead of Ross McFarlane at the moment. This now, Adam Watson in the gorgeous sounding Audi R8 LMS GT3 car, 5.2 litre V10 in the back of that thing, singing away as he chases down Ben Gregory's V8 powered BMW Z4 GT3. Onto the brakes they go, into the right-hander. This, of course, the Fagny chicane. The weight transfer of the car shifts it over to the left. The different characteristics of these cars are really coming into play now. Of course, the BMW front-engined, well, it was nearly rear-engine there as the Audi nearly went into the back of it. The Audi, of course, mid-engined essentially is the right terminology for it. But Watson, he's having to really try hard here to get past Ben Gregory. And I mean, we've both raced against get your words out, Chad. We've both raced against Ben Gregory before, Paul, and we know he is very, very good at making his car certainly a wide machine.
Absolutely. First of your pit stops in your top 10, George McClay and Alex Arana making their pit stops as we're keeping an eye on this battle. Watson having to hit the brakes, and they're both going to the pits at the same time. My goodness, as others go past, but this is now time for a few of your pit stops. We're at that phase of the race now, Chaz. We're into the final hour of this one. It's an hour and three-quarter race here. So really, these drivers, Michael Blake battling away with Morgan Butler. But these drivers coming down, this is their first of their planned pit stops here. So yeah, we'll see how we get on here. Arana reaching his pit stall first by virtue of his penalty that he had. As now McClay, I think he's lost his pit stop lollipop man. Here he goes. He's going to stop it now. So yeah, just getting a little bit lost in all of that. But there he is.
I was going to say he must have some sort of camouflage overalls on the lollipop man, but he's having his stop, and I don't expect to see anybody taking tyres at this point.
Alex Arana, 21.6 seconds on the stall, and McClay 24.5. So that means that Arana jumps ahead of McClay in the pit stops.
Love it, good stuff from Arana there. Just trying to make up places where he can. You know, these drivers, they do calculate so much about the fuel and how long pit stops they'll take, how long they'll be on pit lane, and where they could end up if they get the pit stop right. There's always stuff going through their heads. Here are the two front runners just coming into the bus stop one more time. Pete Harrod has joined us and said hello in the chat. And I actually had the strange miracle of I was out for a meal the other day in Germany near the Nürburgring, and some English gentleman said, "Oh, that new commentator they've got on the 24-hour race sounds weird." And I turned around and it was Pete Harrod and two of his friends stood right behind me in the restaurant, which was pretty surreal. So it was good to see Pete and the guys as we were somehow, despite the fact we live a mile away from each other, we still ended up right next to each other in Germany as well, which is pretty bonkers. But someone that's going to be hoping that he's less than a mile away from somebody is Josh Thompson now after Moreno Sarika, because Moreno, while he is usually the the car in front between these pair, or he has been at certain points this season anyway, he can break away at certain parts of the lap here from Josh, can't he? But it's just that slipstream there that's holding Josh with him, although you see him lifting quite early here. Do you think they're fuel saving a bit more?
Oh yeah, they're definitely fuel saving between the two of them. And it's just that Josh will be wanting to fuel save that bit more than his teammate in front of him. By the way, the next round of pit stops, Ross McFarlane, Alex Neller, Steve McCaffrey, Carl Moore, Cam Dance, Michael Gray, Mohammed Janko and Daniel Lee all onto pit road, along with Morgan Butler, Michael Blake, Paolo Munoz, Harold Stadler, Ethan Bass and Adam Hedgecock. So we've got an old-fashioned pit party going on here.
We have indeed, and it shows you just how long that pit lane is. The fact that Ross McFarlane hadn't even stopped in his box yet, and Josh Thompson and Moreno Sorica were already coming into Les Combes. It's absolutely monumental, this pit lane, when you're using the endurance pits all the way down both of the two straights either side of La Source. You can see some of the cars getting away now as well. Ross McFarlane leaving the pit box in that big, beefy Mercedes, the only one in the field, and you can hear the sirens as well going off, just to say that there's more cars coming in. And there is Alex Arana, and through he goes into what will effectively be third position.
Oh yeah, he's managed to make the jump on Ross then. Now Ross, interesting, 30.7 seconds on the pits compared to 24 for George McClay, who's just made it past as well. Cam Dance behind, 20.5. So you've got that mixture of drivers taking longer pit stops now and then going for the shorter pit stops at the end, whereas some appearing to take a shorter pit stop now. As here comes Sorica and Thompson both onto pit road. In theory, Josh should be in the pit stall fractionally less time than Moreno because he's been sat behind for longer.
Yeah, indeed.
In theory.
Well, the extra 0.1 of a gallon can make all the difference sometimes when pit stops are going to be this close together. So they go around the right-hander. Ash Blake Hood is in the chat. Close your eyes, mate. They go into the second part of the pit lane. Just edging their way down. It's painful, isn't it, when you're doing this in these cars, Paul, because they're so quick down there. It just takes forever. Now,
most people will have noticed the BMWs are not flashing their lights like normal. That's because these drivers are not actually holding it on the pit lane limiter. If you do not have your pit lane limiter selected, you actually get an extra kilometre an hour of leeway.
There's the trick out of the book then.
Yeah.
The cat out of the bag. But it's actually interesting you say that, because over the weekend I was mentioning that all BMWs tend to flash their pit lane speed limiter lights, and the Z4 obviously one of the most well known for doing so as well. But wow, this is the moment then. I think Josh, just because of that slight gap between the pair of them in the pit lane, they may leave pretty much identically here. Just have to keep our eye on it.
It's a long stop between the two of them. They're at 30 seconds. And away, Sorica is actually the first away. Thompson, an extra 0.7 of a second.
Well, there you go. That is the difference that it makes then, especially when they come out on circuit as well. Get the power down, and away they go. That was Lars van Rijn in the pit lane. Arana's all the way up
Get ready
to
for
the
that
top of Red.
That time will update even more. Look, it's getting closer.
7.7 seconds now behind his teammate.
It'll settle all that once we get past Les Combes, because he's still got the advantage of the top speed up to Les Combes.
I'm just going to completely how? How is Alex Arana
Alex Arana only took 21.6 seconds in the pit stop.
Yeah.
So he's almost 10 seconds shorter on the pit stop compared to his teammates. But that means that it is a Williams Esports 1, 2, 3 at the front of your field. But Arana will be due in his second pit stop to take longer.
Even still, though, I mean, at the end of the day, even if you had that 10 seconds on, he's still only 16 seconds off the lead around such a long lap. And bear in mind, before, Ross McFarlane was 10, 11 seconds off the lead as well. So even when you factor that in, it's just amazing pace. The in-lap and the out-lap that Arana must have done would be absolutely phenomenal. So he's on a great drive at the moment. I just want to explain as well before, McClay went past McFarlane down the straight as we saw. I actually thought it was Cam Dance had got just a magical run out of the pit lane, or Ross had some sort of issue and was going slowly, but yeah, McClay, as we saw with Arana there, based on time difference to his teammates, had that advantage of the top end and already having the run down the straight. So McClay currently sitting 4th for Texsense Fitstyle Motorsport.
So let's give you a little bit of a run through of your top 8 then here in this race. So it is Moreno Sarica who leads this one for Williams Esports, ahead of his teammate Josh Thompson. Alex Arana just 7 seconds off of your race leader in 3rd place. There's a little bit of traffic in Tim Lizard's car in front of the leaders here. So they do ask the back markers to move over in a sensible manner and to let the faster cars through. Josh McClay then for Texsense Fitstyle Motorsports in 4th place, ahead of Ross McFarlane for the 3M car. Cameron Dance, another one of the Texsense Fitstyle Motorsports car, in 6th place, ahead of Steve McCaffrey. And Alex Nella rounding out your top 8 there. And interesting to see the 2 Pro-Ams, McCaffrey and Nella, 7th and 8th, able to hold quite the position still after their really good qualifying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Nella, hats off to him for doing such a good job in that Ford, but it's good to see Steve McCaffrey up there as well for the Paceworks Esports Cobalt team, as McFarlane has now got ahead of McClay, surely in the slipstream down the Kemmel Straight. We all know that can change around very quickly when you're within about a second, maybe a second and a half even, of the car in front. But Steve McCaffrey is just ahead of Alex Nella here, so this is the battle for the Pro-Ams, and just behind him is, I believe on track, that's Simon Underhill in the Nomad Sim Racing.
Yes.
Audi. It is, yes. Yeah, the green and yellow machine.
He is a lap down though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was looking down the timing screen just to see whereabouts he was, but yeah, lap down on these pairs, so nothing to worry about there. I don't think that Simon would be going for it or making any moves here. He's just going to respect the fact that those guys are a lap ahead and just let them have their own battle. But some of these Pro-Ams, Paul, I mean, we were saying it all season really, the fact that it's hard to decide, does someone stay in Pro-Am, do they go up to Pro or down to Am, because the pace variation just in that class alone is so tiny, they're so close together. But some of them, they can take on the pros at certain tracks, they have the pace to do it. And I mean, around here, and especially look at the wonderful Adam Watson at Daytona.
Yeah.
He was 2nd for most of the race. Some of these Pro-Ams are putting in some absolutely stunning performances this season.
Absolutely. It's great to see. By the way, your top amateur driver at the moment is Dean Powell. He's up in 13th place at the moment, just behind Mohammed Janko. So it's Audi versus Ferrari. Adam Watson behind these two as well. Your next amateur in the standings is Morgan Butler ahead of Michael Blake. So those two still battling it out for position. Nella and McCaffrey getting really close here as they head on down back towards Eau Rouge Ravion.
Just have to be careful about the slipstream here. We know that Nella gets a really good run in that Ford. He was incredibly quick earlier in a straight line as they got over the top of the hill. Here we go again then. Steve McCaffrey looking back from his Ford, sorry, from his Audi at the Ford, I should say. Look at that thing go in a straight line. Great to see it. And Nella, funnily enough, he doesn't make a fight out of it there. He actually backs off a little bit early. Now, I was expecting to see him send it down the inside, but I think that he's playing the clever game here, you know, Paul, because he's got 5.4 seconds back to Carl Moore. And don't forget, you get points for overall position in this championship, not position in class, as Daniel Lee goes past Michael Gray. But you get the points for overall position, so he's just playing the clever game and thinking, why don't we just work together and just go forward? You maintain your pace, I'll maintain mine. A little bit further back there is the number 24 of Dean Powell. Now he, of course, is leading the AM class in this championship and in this race, so he's on an absolute flyer at the moment, isn't he?
He was battling with Janko, actually, was Dean, into Le Camp. Not able to make a move stick, so stays in 13th place, but he's set his stall out in that msimesuk.com car, and as they head on downhill. And now you see, that's how you integrate a sponsor name into a team's name. just name the whole team out after the sponsor. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, indeed, it is. You see a lot of teams do it, and some of them, they'll just stick with whatever they have at their disposal based on a team name that they may have held for a long time. There's an art form to the branding in not just in motorsport, but of course everything in the world really. But yeah, in motorsport there's a certain art form to making sure that you've got a brand that's recognisable. And I think that with a livery like that, it's hard to miss, really, isn't it?
Certainly is. It's distinctive, I think, is the word that you're looking for.
Yes.
There as they head on through. Now, Chris Wood, should I say, and Christian Rose getting their two first names mixed up, battling it out for 16th and 17th place. So Christian Rose actually getting a little bit of a better run of it after the pit stops. Here, Wood! Whoa!
He was.
He missed his braking completely there, it appears. And McLaren doing his best to trying to end his race prematurely.
Well, that's what the McLaren does as soon as you climb in it, I suppose. I've heard it's a bit of a death trap sometimes, but the back end just seemed to get away from him there. You can see how little steering lock he's putting in. That car is so twitchy. It's really, really grippy at the front end. It's amazing, but yeah, it's so easy for it to get away. Just watch now as he gets onto the curb a tiny bit. You'll see he turns in. Yeah, it just goes. Just a little twitch to the left, just because he could feel that back end going around. And again on the exit as well. It's just a mad, mad concept, that car, because of the fact that, I say mad, that's no pun intended or anything. The front end of it is so pointy and so grippy that the rear end just hangs on for the ride as Janko goes past Dean Powell.
Well, no,
once
these
again.
two keep on switching position. They keep on fighting. And if they're not careful, they're going to end up being swallowed up by Adam Watson behind them.
Yeah, it's Ferrari Audi at the moment, and the slipstream resetting this fight, you could say, down the Kemmel Straight that time round. Here is Adams for Audi. I'm not doing a good job of getting these manufacturers right. I'm so confused by a lot of it.
It's because you had to remember over 150 cars, isn't it? That's what it is.
I did. Yeah, I'm gonna blame it on that. Thank you. I'll accept that as the excuse. There was 350 drivers at the weekend, so it was a bit difficult to try and remember who was who based off 3 letters on their name as we got on the timing screen. Adam Watson, though, he's going to want to get past these pair as soon as possible, because we know that Adam, when he's in clear air, he can be very, very quick indeed. I mean, we saw him chasing down Josh Thompson at Daytona, and he was very close to Josh's pace. And considering that Josh is a World Championship driver as well, it's quite incredible to see. There is the damage highlighted by Paul's marvellous yellow pen on the front right of the Audi. And you've got to think, just even a slight bit of damage like that, Paul, can just hinder you that tiny bit at top speed, can't it?
So he's picked that up since that instant on lap 1. Whoa! Heart in mouth moment, and change of underpants moment as well for Adam as heading there. But that's happened since the first lap as, Powell onto pit road. That's very early for a second stop.
It is indeed, and that damage would have been as a result of the contact with Ben Gregory as they went round Rivage a lot earlier on. And to be fair, it didn't look like it was that much of a tap on the front. I'm even surprised to see that there's actual visual damage from that. The bumper and I say the bumper, it's just the sort of front corner, and then the bonnet just pressed in slightly. But even tiny little visual keys like that, or visual cues, can cause quite a bit of damage. Here is his teammate Stephen McCaffrey with the absolute monster of a Ford GT stuck behind him here of Alex Neller, Boosted Motorsport's finest. And just being on board with this car is an absolute joy. The sound it makes is just biblical, isn't it? It's a thunderous roar.
Well, why don't we enjoy the sounds of this car and give you a little bit of RaceSpot TV fan immersion?
Oh. Nella just trying to poke the nose of that Ford in. He needs to be careful because it's like a doorstop when it gets to the back of that Audi with how high up the splitter is on the back of it. Just wedge himself under there and pick that Audi up off the floor. So needs to avoid that contact as best as possible. All three of them do, to be honest. We want the nice clean racing that we've come to expect. Just behind there, that's Simon Underhill. I think that might have been for position on Matt Draycott, yeah. Oh, apologies. It was, yeah, he's already ahead of Matt Draycott, actually. Matt's 15 seconds further back. And you may just see him in the back of your shot, maybe not. But yeah, this little chase here between Nella, McCaffrey and Cam Dance is great. And usually I'd be expecting Cam to fly away here. Yeah, for sure. It does indeed. Alex says, apparently we can't hear you on the stream, Paul. I'm just getting reports. But yeah, Nella's control of this Ford just shows you the fact that you put the right driver in one of the older bits of kit that you can drive, thanks to the wonderful world of sim racing. The talent combined with an older car can certainly be a very interesting prospect.
The dulcet Yorkshire tones of Paul Smith here, now on stream, as they go through Eau Rouge Radion once again. And you get to hear a Yorkshireman try and pronounce the French-sounding names. Here we go, McCaffrey to the inside and through this time. Cam Dance, nothing that he could do about that, and the Audi to the front of this group, up into 6th place now for the Pro-Am leader.
Good job that for McCaffrey. Onto the brakes as well. That Audi, from the outside, it looks really planted and stable on the way into Rivage, but let me tell you, after a season of driving it last time around, it's certainly not a stable car. It's a very quick car when you get the right setup on it and you get the confidence to push it, but it does want to kill you, trust me. The Ferrari can be the same as well, to be fair. You get the front end of these cars really pointing, especially the mid-engine machinery, but because of all of that weight at the back, it does want to swap ends very aggressively, and we've seen that especially from the McLaren. There is the view back of Cam Dance's very aggressive looking Texans Fitzstein Motorsport Ferrari. Just over half an hour left to go here, Paul, and we've got some battles going on here, I'll be utterly honest, and meaning no disrespect to these drivers. We've got a lot of battles going on that I wouldn't normally expect to see. There's some great duels going on.
Yeah, I'm looking further down the order. Ethan Bass and James Whitehouse, they're pretty close together. They've been battling over 20th place. Harold Stadler and Mark Woodhouse, that's over 23rd and 24th as well. That's Pro and Pro-Am drivers there in that battle. So a couple of closer battles further down your field. And in fact, Woodhouse decides to just let Stadler by. I wonder if that's maybe just trying to get a damage limitation really for Woodhouse in this race.
Yeah, potentially. We know that Stadler's quicker. Side by side again is McCaffrey and Cam Dance. Down the inside goes Steve into La Source, and Alex Nella says, oh look, an open door, I'll go down there if you want to leave that one wide open. Well, you're born in a barn, Cam. But he doesn't actually get the overlap down the hill. Because of Cam's wider line on the exit, he manages to hold the pace down the hill, up through Eau Rouge and Radion. The left-hander keeping the car nice and settled, but watch out for Alex Nella in what is known as the pesky Ford. Not the Penske Ford. He goes out to the right-hand side, keeps Cam to the left-hand side of the circuit, and Nella's surely going to get it done on the brake. So he's going down the inside of McCaffrey as well. We saw him do this earlier, Paul. McCaffrey straight lines it. Nella gets it done. Beautiful stuff from the Ford driver. Here comes McCaffrey after his entry to the Belgian rally that doesn't take place at all. He's a one-man entrant, but unfortunately he doesn't lose the place there. Of course, that's Simon Underhill, who's a lap down. But I think that maybe just that little adjustment of his line there and the braking point just caught him off guard.
There was slight contact, I think, between Dance. No, there wasn't actually, but he's offline there.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't expect to see Nella launching down the inside.
Neither did I.
And, well, we saw Nella do it earlier in the race, didn't we, when he made that move for third place. So we know how good that Ford is on the brakes, and Nella just threw it down there and got the job done. Up into 6th right now, Christian Rose. Oh, this is at Jackie Hicks' corner. And I bet he's just lost it on the power on the exit here. Let's have a find out.
Yeah, it's easy to get 2 wheels or even just 1 wheel onto the AstroTurf on the exit, and the car gets away from you. I keep getting reminded that I caused a humongous accident in the World GT a few seasons ago around that corner. Oh, he's actually done it on the way in. He unsettles the right rear, just getting onto that curb, and how he's not hit anything there, Paul, I don't know. That's something out of the Book of Miracles, that, isn't it?
He's done a good job of it, that's for sure. We'll get a look from off-board then. So he clips that curb on the outside, that just unsettles the car through mid-corner, and a couple of cars taking a bit wider to the AstroTurf there. And Christian, I think, to be honest, even though he's been doing rather well in the championship and the pro standings, this is a season to forget for him, and he'll be a little bit disappointed with how this championship has gone.
Yeah, like I was saying before, the first couple of rounds for him, he was always there under the radar, inside the top 6 or just inside the top 10 in every single race. And then for the last few meetings, it's just fallen apart. It really has just come apart at the seams for him, I'm afraid. And we both know Christian, he's a top bloke and a very committed racer, but I know he'll be frustrated at the consistent bad luck that he's getting. Someone that hasn't really had that much bad luck, albeit a few disconnects and a retirement, is Josh Thompson, who is currently still trying to chase down his teammate Moreno Sorica. 4/10 to a second between the pair of them, then there's 6 seconds back to Alex Arana and another 6 seconds to Ross McFarlane. And don't say he's just disconnected now. No, he's back. That would have been a hell of a commentator's curse, that one, but luckily for Josh and for us, so we get to see those two fight, the connection stays true for Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, he's been having trials and tribulations with his internet connection throughout this season, this season's championship, but he is still there and is still carrying on. There's a slow car there on the inside of the exit of Pouan. It was a yellow car. I can't see which car it was. Wasn't
I think
that car?
it may have been Tony Draper's dropped down. James Whitehouse is still
Tony Draper's
circling.
back to the pits.
Yeah, and James Whitehouse is up in 20th place. Yeah, Tony Draper has just popped back, so there he is. Definitely a yellow car, that's for sure. And let's have a look at what has happened.
We've caught the end of it there. Oh, and that's caused suspension damage right there. We'll wind the tape back just a little bit. I lie, there is no tape here. It's all hard drives there. But here we go then. Into Pouan, so easily done. He's caught the curb on the inside, and then it then runs you out over the curb on the outside, which exacerbates it. That's why there was a slow car running on the side of the track then.
Yeah, it's not an ideal thing to do, and I mean, we were talking earlier about how difficult Pouan is as a corner. You can sometimes run too wide, overdo it on the steering lock on the apex, and then there is 2 BMWs there, trust me. But other times you can clip the gravel, and we've seen, I mean, even from Christian Rose before, just hitting the curb with that right rear really unsettled the car, whether he was on the brakes or the throttle. And I think just that bounce on the inside, you can sometimes get away with it, but unfortunately Tony Draper there, an example of when you don't get away with it.
Chris Wood onto pit road, so we are in the pit stop window for second pit stops now. Worth pointing out as well, Alex Nella, he did put in more fuel than the drivers that he's been battling with, like Cam Dance is one of those drivers who is currently still embroiled in a battle. So he put in 31.5 seconds, or he was in the pit stop for 31.5 seconds. Cam Dance was 20.5 seconds, so possibly potentially a shorter pit stop then for Alex coming up here. And Cam he may realise it, he may not. It depends on if he's got a team manager or an engineer working with him and the team on this race.
Yeah, that's the thing I was saying earlier about how these guys calculate a lot of different things over the course of the race. Some of them, they actually have spotters and engineers doing that for them, as Paul mentioned. So interesting to see whether they manage to figure that out, that Alex has done that. I know some of the drivers, they even listen to the stream while they're racing, and I think that must be very, very distracting sometimes. But I've had it happen before where I forgot that I've had the stream open and been racing around, and then suddenly it kicks in and scares the life out of me as I'm thinking, where's that coming from? But at the moment, Alex Neller is once again, he's come alive in this Ford, hasn't he? He's really showing us how it's done in that machine, and it's just a breath of fresh air in this championship.
Yeah, he was one of the drivers who changed car very early on in the season and took the hit on the points, and it's showing here as they're coming in to the chicane once again through the right and the left. Look how the Ford doesn't use the sausage curb, whereas the Ferrari, Cam Dance, using that sausage curb just to help turn the car around the corner. It's a tricky thing to do there, because if you Sarika.
I've just heard it then on. I've got the sim open. That's Rouge with Hedgecock. That's the race leader.
What on earth has happened here? Drama and sensation here at this point of the race. We'll get the replay up on screen then to see what's happened. So this is Sarika. Oh, he's got damage already. He's got damage at that point already.
Has he potentially hit the inside wall at La Source? Hopefully he doesn't take out Thompson. There's contact with Thompson as well. Arana's in there. And I'm really not sure where he's got that damage, but to get it that suddenly and not lose a position,
here we go.
Surely he's hit the inside of La Source.
Don't say the two teammates have got into each other here.
I hope not, for Josh's sake as well, but I think he's just hit the inside, you know.
No, there's a car spawn, and it's Hedgecock. And Thompson's ended up into the back of him.
Oh, no. That's absolutely vile moment for the pair of them. Because I was going to say, for him to have hit something hard enough to break it that much and not lose a place.
To be fair to Josh, he can't see much, and he doesn't know that Sarika's going to hit the brakes rather than go around the outside.
Yeah, in all fairness, you're right, because he would have been looking at the McLaren and thinking, that's what I've got to avoid, and then over to your left, suddenly your teammate is stopped, and yeah, there wasn't a lot Josh could do. I mean, it helps Arana. Arana's closed in, but at the expense of one of his teammates there. That's such a shame that it came to that. And then, of course, Hedgecock got involved again, and Josh Thompson just got out of it. There was a little touch there, and here is Sarika. He's still managing to get the car around, which is very impressive in itself, but it looks like it's just sort of slow-mo drifting, doesn't it?
Yeah, there is definitely drama, high drama in this race here, and of course Thompson will have that front end damage. Now, if he didn't take his fast repair at the pit stops, and speaking of pit stops, here they are as they come onto pit road. If Thompson didn't take his fast repair at the last pit stop, he'll be in a good position to get that done and to stay out the front. But if he didn't, that damage to the front end of his car now will be significantly slowing him down, as Sarika, how on earth is he doing this? He's still bringing it round, but all of a sudden the tables have turned here in this race, Chaz. This is fantastic. Oh, as cars coming up behind Sarika whilst he's on the track.
Yeah, it's scary for anybody coming across him here. That's amazingly, that was Hedgecock again that he nearly lost it in front of there, but yeah, that's not showroom spec. I wouldn't say that, BMW. Now Hedgecock coming in as well. Be interesting to see what happened to Adam with the original spin. I think he may have just lit it up on the exit because he didn't seem to have too much damage. So maybe just a little bit eager on the throttle on the exit.
Well, he was facing an odd way actually.
He was like 90 degrees left, wasn't it?
Let's see if we can see what happened to Adam. Let's get back. So here's Adam Hedgecock. So he's got one of the M Signs UK cars behind onto the brakes. Oh no! And there's contact between the two of them. They do a dance around as well. They got stuck together, and then Adam tries to get going again. Realizes that there's cars there. I mean, it's difficult for Adam in that situation because you cannot see those cars coming around the corner there like that.
Yeah, and as we've said before as well, everyone could look at that and go, well, he should have just reversed. But based on how the iRacing mirrors are often set up, it's not easy to tell where the back of the car is. I mean, even in a normal car, it's not easy to tell either. So he could have thought, I don't want to risk backing it into the wall. There's a lot of runoff in front of me and there's a lot of track potentially behind me. So I may as well go forward and just see what everybody else does. But
still has damage on the front of his car. So
yeah,
he's
I was going to say
a fast repair.
No, that's an odd one, that, to be honest. I would have thought that with the pace that they had earlier when they made their first stop, they wouldn't have needed to use that fast repair.
9.5 seconds was his pit stop as well. That is an exceptionally short pit stop there for Josh.
Yeah, that's remarkably short. Remarkable.
Sarika 6.6 seconds. I mean, Christian Rose was 9.8 seconds, so you are looking at some quite short pit stop times for this second pit stop phase here.
I think they're just doing literally a splash and dash.
It's because of the safety car, of course.
Yeah, that's very true. And we saw Sarika was one of the drivers that was just dumping the clutch and holding it. So McFarlane now inherits the lead of the race for now, with George McClay right behind him. George, another impressive driver in this championship. As I've said before, he's a very, very quick boy, and he's certainly got some good poke in this Ferrari. He hangs on to the back of that big burly Mercedes.
Williams team boss has just put F in the chat.
Oh no.
I mean, I'd hate to be a team boss right now in that situation. How do you sort that one out? And to be fair, I do think that was a racing incident, an unfortunate turn of circumstances to happen there. And I don't feel that you probably won't find that the team will be putting in a protest because it's against their own team and they won't want to do that.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm sure Sarika won't be the happiest in the world about it, but it's one of them moments, isn't it? You come across an incident, you have to decide quickly, and sometimes, as we saw earlier on at the very start of the race, the decisions that come from avoiding an incident aren't always in the same interests for everybody, so it's just one of those things, I'm afraid. But look at this, though, from George McClay. What a fantastic chase he's putting on here on Ross McFarlane. The only Mercedes in the race, though, is doing an absolutely stunning job, considering that he started a little bit further down the order compared to what we're used to.
Certainly did. Here we are then, Ross McFarlane. Looking back towards George McClay, you can see how that Mercedes, see, and you've got me doing it now, the Mercedes stretches its legs down towards Blanchimont. It is a little bit of a canal barge around the corners, is this car, but once you get it onto the straights, it is not, you're not able to compete with it, really.
I was expecting to see a P&O logo on the side of it, to be fair. It's that much of a boat. As McClay jumps into the pit lane then, and has to take about 45 minutes to get down it. Ross McFarlane then onto the brakes into La Source, and this is the important moment now for McFarlane in this battle, because he doesn't have to worry about a car chasing him down. He can just focus on his own lap time, can't he, and just get that clear air ahead and run with it. Yeah,
this race, it really has just come alive there without that. Yes, I do agree with Arjuna there. You know, Conor Maddock is suddenly, he'll have sensed that rejoin and he'll start getting a nervous twitch about that one. But yeah, these drivers, it's all just spreading out at the moment on the track because we are in that pit stop phase. We've got George McClay on pit road. Daniel Lee has just come onto pit road as well. The leading of your drivers who have taken 2 scheduled stops is Josh Thompson in 12th place currently. Ethan Bass, well, he had took a pit stop for damage. Alex Arana is down in 16th place, and he is roughly looking at things about 16 seconds behind Josh Thompson, because he took 25.8 seconds in the pit stop to Alex. And then looking further down, Cam Dance is the next one in 19th place of your 2 scheduled stops. There are a couple others who have taken 2 pit stops, like Adam Watson just in front of Mohammed Janko in this battle here for 6th and 7th place. But Watson, of course, causing everything that started at the start of the race to put Radion.
Yeah, indeed, he was the catalyst in that one, I think, is the safest way to put it. But yeah, we've lost a few drivers because of that earlier incident. We've also lost Niall Crowther, by the way. I've just had a message through from Niall saying he's had a connection issue and he's unfortunately dropped out of the race. He said he entered the pits and heard Matt Draycott calling his name, and he was responding but not getting anything through, so he's then dropped out, which is a real shame. And you know, we attribute that to, say, a mechanical failure or something wrong with the car. And you know, it adds that extra realistic element into this, I'm afraid, that you as drivers cannot control. As Mohamed Janko there just proving to us that it sometimes can be just a blip rather than a complete disconnection.
Every time I see a car just blink like that, I have flashbacks to Daytona, and I think, please no, not again. And I'm sure Matt Bunn is watching this as well, thinking exactly the same thing. McCaffrey's into the pits, so he's making his scheduled pit stop, and Michael Gray is going to stay out, I believe. Yes, he will. He's coming down the Stanford Straight there. Adam Watson, he's onto pit road as well, is he? No, he isn't. He's staying out as well as Janko. So those two staying together out there on track. So we're getting fits and spurts of drivers coming onto pit road, getting a pit stop here and getting their final service done here. But these drivers going on. So this is going to be interesting to see how things pan out. George McClay, look at that, second pit stop just ahead of Alex Arana. It wasn't that much that Arana was ahead of McClay at the first pit stop. So these two are going to be duking it out towards the end, the final 16 3/4 minutes.
It's almost like the commentator's curse has struck, and I've summoned lightning from somewhere on the Team Lizard cars, because Matt Draycott's now out of the race as well. He's had an incident and given himself about 14 minutes of repairs, and he's also got a drive-through after that for too many incident points, so he's not the happiest of bunnies right now. But it's a real shame for Team Lizard Motorsport, because as we said at the top of the broadcast, the fact that they were doing quite well in the Teams Championships after a good round at Motegi, and Steve Burke, their other teammate, isn't here this evening because he's not well. We do hope, of course, Steve, that you are better very soon, mate, and we wish you all the best. But yeah, this is a very enticing part of the race now, Paul, where these pit stop strategies all align with each other, and we see where everyone is. And is that Morgan Butler? Yes,
it is, and I think he's just had a little issue up at Le Con. Just going to go back a little bit. Oh, he's off track there. We need to go back just a little bit more to find out what happened to him. So here he is, Le Con. Through the right, that's okay. Through the left, onto the power, and yeah. So that outside curb, I can tell you, is an absolute killer. We found that out in the Spa 24 Hours, how drivers were just touching that curb and sending the car around. Fortunately for Morgan, he's able to carry on and ended up losing one position out of all of that. So Ethan Bass made it ahead, but Ethan does owe us a pit stop, as does Morgan, in fact. So that's going to be a battle to the end of the race here. Looking up and down the order. Worth pointing out, so drivers out of the race. Michael Avdoka did not take the start. His ironing board did not work out for him. Ben Hackerson, Mike Horder were involved in that initial incident up at Eau Rouge Radion. Tom Jacobs was saw going into the wall after contact with Janko up at Le Com. Tony Draper and Kieran Chung, they are still in the session. They're on pit road, but they have been on pit road for over 15 minutes now, so I don't think we'll be seeing those two back out on track. Now Crowther and Matt Draker as well, as Chaz pointed out to us, also retiring from the race down on pit road as well. So 31 of our 38 starters remaining in this race here so far, so it's not been a bad race of attrition, to be honest.
No, actually, usually Spa is a bit more of a killer than it has been this evening. But Matt's actually messaged and said the car was akin to Bambi on ice when he'd done 33 laps around here, so he wasn't best impressed with the grip available. But here is Alex Arana in the BMW chasing down George McClay in the Ferrari, and that is a massive slipstream. And this is the thing, the further away that you are, as long as you're in slipstream range, if you're at the very, very furthest reaches of it, when you get onto a long straight like that, you're going to get a humongous slingshot down the other end of the straight, because if you're right behind a car as you go up the top of the hill, you're not really going to gain that much from it, are you? It's a bit of a balancing act, you could say.
And don't forget as well, it is quite a significant uphill to Le Combe from up the Camel Straight. You do not realise just how steep it is up there, and that's why they're able to brake so late into the Le Combe chicane and through the go. But McLeay will have been feeling the effects of that all the way up the Camel Straight, as well as the Ferrari not having the optimal top speed as well, and giving that slipstream to the man that we're on board with, Alex Serrano from Williams Esports. Reina Sarica, by the way, is still in 19th place. There are a few drivers still to make pit stops. Daniel Lee is in front of him, and he has actually made his second pit stop as Daniel, so that will be a battle for position. But Sarica is 10 seconds behind Daniel at the moment. With time running out here, it's going to be interesting to see how that one all pans out as Adam Watson comes onto pit road now.
It's going to be just splash and dash from a lot of these drivers now. There's so little of the race left to go. I know that some of these drivers in the sprint races only use about 11 gallons of fuel depending on the track, as Arana goes down the inside of McLeay. McLeay doesn't make it hard for him. He knows that the move was going to happen, so he thinks, right, let's lose as little time as possible here and move forward as best we can. Ross McFarlane's done the fastest lap. Sorry, he's the leader. I apologise, I read the graphic wrong. That's my bad. But I've done that twice now this season. And Arana, though, you know, nice clean move. McLeay just says, we're not going to fight too much, let's just get on with it. And because of the safety car earlier on, though, it really has thrown the pit stops a lot further into the race. But as I was going to say, some of these guys in the 20-minute sprint races only use about 11 gallons of fuel. So the fact that some of these ones that haven't pitted now will only need to put about maybe 5-6 gallons of fuel in just to guarantee they'll make it to the end, because you're on the throttle a lot around here. These are going to be some very short pit stops, because they won't lose too much time if they don't take tyres, I don't think.
Oh, well, they won't be taking tyres, not at this point. Adam Watson, 11.4 seconds in the pit box, and he's back up underway. And thank you very much to Arjuna for putting the link to the live timing available on the RaceSpot website, racespot.tv/timing2. It's always the same link for each and every one of this championship there, so racespot.tv/timing2. Get it bookmarked if you watch this series regularly and other series on RaceSpot, as here comes Ross McFarlane onto pit road. This is important. This is his final pit stop. Splash and dash.
Going to keep an eye on Alex Neller as well on our timing screen and see whether he comes into the pit lane too. But another update from Team Lizard Motorsport, by the way. Matt Draycott does have a couple of minutes to spare based on his repairs, so he's going to at least try and finish the race and see whether he can get himself some points in the championship. And that's important, because every single point adds up, and there are a lot of them on offer for this endurance race, so he needs to make sure that he doesn't fall behind his rivals in the AM category. And here is the number 127 in the bottom right of your screen, and you can see Josh Thompson, the number 49, as he goes through into the...
We'll put the right button there. There we go.
There you go. Into the bus stop chicane goes Josh Thompson. Around the final corner. Down the Grand Prix straight, anyway, towards La Source. And Ross is only just going to stop in his box, but he's literally going to be there, I think, Paul, for less than 10 seconds.
Well, here we go then. And he'll be right near the end of the pit lane as well, so he'll be able to get going, up and running. Michael Gray, you see on the left there, on pit road. Ross McFarlane, he's pulling away and he's out of the pit stall. Unfortunately, it's not giving me a stop time on my graphics, but there goes Josh Thompson, past and into the lead. Where will Ross McFarlane now, well, it's effectively the lead, should we say. Ross McFarlane, where will he come out into the field? Well, he's got lap traffic behind him, so he's in a really good position for himself in this race here. And Thompson, not that far ahead, only 3.6 seconds ahead now.
Well, that is one of the defining moments of the race. Obviously, the gap has closed down a lot from what it was. It was a great stint from Ross McFarlane, less than 10 minutes to go. And I think that unless we see a mistake from Thompson or something go on, we know that Josh has got the consistency to stay ahead. But again, it's just highlighting how consistent and how fast Ross McFarlane is. He's been a real standout for me this season. And so is this man, Alex Neller, in the Pro-Am category. He's currently the highest Pro-Am. Mohamed Janko, the next one down in fourth, but of course out of sync with the pit stops compared to some of the other drivers. But I think that Nella, he's in with a good shout here, because as we said before, Paul, he's taken a bit more fuel than the cars around him when he was battling them earlier.
He does have to come on pit road, and here he comes now. So, where will he come out in all of this then? He'll come out behind Ross. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's where he'll feed out with Alex Arana. Ethan Bass and Arana, there's still... Hats off to Ethan Bass. We saw some promising displays from Ethan earlier on this season. He's 2.5 seconds ahead of Alex Arana here in this one, and Arana, he's been catching up at quite considerable pace, but 8 minutes remaining here, so time is running out. Your top three are on pit road. Nella, Moore, Munoz, and now Janko as well onto pit road. So the four of them are making their final pit stops. And, well, how will they all feed out into the battles out there on track as Arana down Bass actually onto pit road.
There he is.
Yes, of course, he was involved in the incident at the start of the race with Ethan. So it's been a really promising race for him as a recovery drive.
Yeah, definitely. Ethan's been very, very strong. Ash Blakehood reminding him, mind the wall, it bites. So he's definitely got memories of that, as I'm sure we all have. I don't think you'll live that one down, I'm afraid, Ash.
That was on a Racebot TV broadcast as well.
Oh, love it. Love it. Well, here is the Audi R8 then just making his way into the pit lane once again. Great stuff from Ethan Bass, though. Once again, we've just seen a bit of smoke come out of one of the cars there. I think that might have been maybe a damaged car in the pit lane. Alex Arana into Le Comp, third place overall at the moment in a 888 car. Look at that, 51 seconds a lap faster. That's a hell of a lap time, that is, I tell you. He definitely didn't do the endurance pits on that one. But 10.6 seconds back, that's a very impressive gap, considering how far down the grid Arana was at the start of this one. So he could be happy, and even if he doesn't take the win, there's still a lot of championship points for his effort. Oh, that's Watson. No, there's no front end left on the Audi. It's going to be a very difficult car to get around, but we've seen it happen. And I mean,
and he's used his fast repair.
He has, yeah. And just going back to my season last season, I know that the Audi hates high-speed corners, and it tries to kill you every single time you go through one. Let's have a look as we go down the hill, Paul.
Yeah, this is going to be through Radion. It won't be through Eau Rouge, which is the left. There's the left, now it's through Radion. Clips the curb, oh, there goes the back end. He almost saved it.
He did, yeah.
And then it just snapped again at the last minute. And poor Adam Watson. He came into this round leading the Pro-Am standings, and he was saying to myself earlier in the weekend, he was saying he was just aiming to get some really good point scores and get a good result out of the rest of the season. Well, unfortunately, if he's not got a meatball flag from that, he'll be able to... Oh, no, even if he has got a meatball flag, he should potentially be able to get to the end. Cameron Dance and Michael Gray, by the way, battling it out for 8th and 9th place.
Yeah, good little scrap going on again here. We've seen Michael Gray and Cam Dance always inside the top 10 in this championship. Two of the very, very quick drivers in the Pro-Am category. Although, sorry, Cam Dance is in the Pro category. I always forget. I got him confused with, I believe, his teammate is it Lewis Bibby in the Pro-Am? No, Lewis Bibby's a Pro as well, actually. So all three of those Ferraris in the Pro category, and they all do a very good job of it as well. But Mike Gray, he's one of the standout Pro-Ams, isn't he? He's always up there with the Pro drivers. And don't forget as well, Paul, for poor Adam Watson, he was the car that went absolutely space shuttle status at the start of the race when he got hit by Mike Horder. And then again, Mike Horder, reigning Pro-Am champion, so some real big hitters in that championship have had quite an incident-ridden race.
Yeah, we're on board with Gray. Up the Kemmel straight. Look at the speed difference between him and Dance. Dance moving to the inside early on the brakes, and yeah, Gray's just backing out of that one. Realised that he wasn't going to hold it around the outside, so therefore carrying on through Malmedy and heading down to Rivage once again as your leaders. Now, Ross McFarlane was 1/10 of a second quicker than your race leader on the last lap. That's not enough time to be gaining if you want to try and challenge for the win at the end here.
No, definitely not. He's going to have his work cut out, or he'll have to rely on an incident or some sort of mistake from cars ahead to be able to gain that much more. So this is the part of the race now where in most places the positions may stay stagnant, but because of the fact that the tyres are absolutely shot on most of these cars, none of the front runners taking tyres, this comes down to a lot of driver control now and making the most of a car that isn't performing at its best. There is the number 83 of Mark Woodhouse as Marino Sirica makes its way past just outside the top 10 up into 11th place at the moment. And just behind them as well is Paolo Munoz, who we've not seen too much of in this race in the Sim Sports Racing USA Ferrari. And he'll be quite happy to still be up there in 13th place, because like I say, he's had a very under-the-radar performance.
He starts from the back of the grid, don't forget, as well.
He did, yeah.
So great performance from Paolo. There's some big performances going on in this race here today, and Paolo is certainly one of those, and he's putting the pressure on Mark Woodhouse, the flame-spitting McLaren. Get your marshmallows out for s'mores. Oh, as Woodhouse comes onto pit road, he hasn't had his final pit stop, so that's why he didn't really fight those two in that battle. One that is fighting still is Michael Gray here, and he is in a perfect spot right now.
Something I've noticed on the timing screen, I think you mentioned it before when Ross came out, it hasn't seemed to have picked up his second pit stop still. Yeah. It hasn't updated even after that. I thought that maybe it just took a bit of a delay, but still not showing that. It's quite interesting. I know that the admins will review it, and if it does come up as one, then... Oh, yeah, I just mean in terms of they'll check it anyway and just see. They'll be like, yeah, he definitely did. We know he did, but they'll review the footage and just be sure. As here is Mike Gray. No footage to review there for him. He's trying to make a clean move around the outside of Cam Dance, and Cam's saying, not on your life, mate. Simon Underhill has got a great view of this from just behind. He now gets out of the way because that is Daniel Lee in the msignsuk.com Ferrari, and he wants in on this fight now as well, Paul. And what you've got to think here, I'm not wishing anything bad for these guys, but if any of these get together and someone loses a spot, Sirica is going to pick it up and get back into the top 10.
We've got a triple threat match between these three right here then, with less than a minute and a half to go in this race. Ross McFarlane has been gaining time, by the way, on your race leader. So he has been closing up to Josh, but not enough time to make this one work. But Daniel Lee, Michael Gray, Cam Dance all together. A minute to go in the race here, and where is Josh? He's just coming across the line now, so we've got one more lap to go with your leaders going across the line right now. So time running out for Michael Gray to make the move, and he's trying to make it here on the exit of Stavelot, heading towards Blanchimont.
He's a brave man if he's going to hang this around the outside of Blanchimont. Either that or he's absolutely bonkers. But either way, Cam Dance has got to be careful about his line now, because he's got to hook it to the inside. Gray round the outside, plenty of runoff though, gets back on the circuit. May have to think about that one as gaining an unfair advantage. Just look at Daniel Lee down the inside, very late on the brakes there, down the inside of Cam Dance. Cam's now got the inside for the final corner. Lee's hanging it around the outside. Simon Underhill's thinking, thank God I'm not in this fight for position. This is absolutely bonkers stuff. But Mike Gray makes the most of it and gets ahead. And it's little moments like that, you know, that may get protested at the end, as Daniel Lee down the inside once again into the source. Really hits the compression in the middle there. But the time is now down to 0, Paul. And this is definitely the final lap of the race. But these guys, they want to get any position they can here right at the very end.
Yeah, Daniel Lee trying to get the run through Radion. Up over the top of the hill there. Slipstream will be coming into effect right now. He'll be trying his best to tuck underneath the car of Cam Dance in front. Dance going defensive early here. Oh, and switch across. Lee late across there into the braking zone. No move made for the time being between those two, so they're staying as they are. Meanwhile, front of your field, Josh Thompson, 2.3 seconds is his lead, as Michael Blake actually making a very late final pit stop here, so the start of the final lap for his final pit stop in this race. But Josh Thompson then through Stavelot for the final time, and big wiggle of the car. He is pushing it all the way to the end here as they head on through Blanchimont for the final time. Ross McFarlane is closing still, He's keeping the pressure on right to the end. Again, a wiggle from Josh on the exit of Blanchimont onto the brakes. And well, 2 more corners to go, and it's going to be Williams Esports driver of Josh Thompson across the line to take victory here in the World GT Championship Season 8, Meeting 8, the endurance race at Spa-Francorchamps. Ross McFarlane, second place as well. And then not that far behind, Alex Arana coming across the line to round out your podium positions. Your best of your Pro-Ams, by the way, Steve McCaffrey, hats off to him. A sensational job there in the Paceworks Esports Cobalt car across the line to take the victory in Pro-Am, with Alex Nella in the Ford coming across in second place, and Michael Gray making it ahead of Cam Dance on that last lap. Daniel Lee and Cam Dance across the line together. That was close, about 0.5 of a second between the two of them. Who's the best amateur driver out there on track?
Hey,
it is Morgan Butler.
Go on.
Who's just ahead of Chris Wood in the Team Mad McLaren. Down into the chicane for the final time. It's going to be Morgan then taking victory in the out of the amateurs here today. Out the final chicane, get onto the power, find himself across the line there to take victory for himself. We've still got battling going on, by the way. James Whitehouse, Lars van Rijn and Matt Woodhouse together at the end. This is 21st, 22nd and 23rd out there on track. And James Whitehouse, he had an awful start to the race, getting involved in that accident at the start, but across the line to take 22nd, sorry, in the end. My timing screen just updating itself there at the end. But Chaz, what a race that was. Drama all the way through that. That was brilliant stuff to watch.
Yeah, that was an absolutely epic race. It was a real shame about what happened to Moreno Sorica with Josh Thompson. Josh will be very happy to have taken the win, but not in the circumstances of having that contact with his teammate. Ross McFarlane was a real standout. Again, he just showed the incredible pace that he has to keep that car up there, chasing those Williams Esports cars. Alex Arana from the back of the grid to get a podium. What a great drive that is. I said at the top of the broadcast that these guys are good at endurance racing, and that's what they do, and he has proved that today. George McClay, fourth. Really good showing from him. Carl Moore and Stephen McCaffrey as well, the two Paceworks Esports Cobalt cars, 5th and 6th, as you see there. Although, actually, sorry, Steve McCaffrey's not in the Cobalt car. They are the same livery in my defence. But, yeah, the top Pro-Am, absolute hero there in 6th place. So, continuing that then, Alex Nella behind them in 7th place, ahead of Mike Gray in that XVR Sim Racing BMW. He's always there or thereabouts, with Cam Dance and Daniel Lee rounding out your top 10. Moreno Sorica just outside of the top 10 in 11th, ahead of Paolo Munoz in the Sim Sports Racing USA Ferrari. Mohamed Janko gets P13, he'll be happy with that, as will Ben Gregory with P14. Christian Rose actually made a good comeback there to 15th, ahead of Adam Watson, considering he was in that crash on lap 1. 16th, a great result. Same with Ethan Bass. Morgan Butler, your top AM driver, ahead of Chris Wood and Harold Stadler in 20th place. Dean Powell was behind him, second in AM, with James Whitehouse third. Lars van Rijn in 4th in AM category in 23rd place overall, ahead of Mark Woodhouse and Michael Blake in the top 25, with Chris Byram, John Roberts and Simon Field behind them. Simon Underhill was a lap down, as well as the 3 cars ahead of him. Gavin Baker rounding out your top 30. Adam Hedgecock was 2 laps down, Matt Draycott 6 laps down, Niall Crowther 16 laps down after his connection issue, and then from the race we lost Kieran Chung, Tony Draper, Tom Jacobs, Mike Horder, Ben Hackerson and Michael Avdoka with his magical ironing board did not take the start.
Do you want to know something really amazing?
Go.
After 1 hour and 45 minutes of racing, there is one driver who finished the race with 0 instant points throughout that race.
Should we play let's do a
raffle?
Well,
I know. So don't look. Who do you think would have got that?
I don't see the incident count on my screen, so I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe somebody like Michael, although Michael Blake got involved in contact. Maybe somebody a bit further down like Dean Powell or perhaps your Lars van Rijn.
I'll tell you right now, and I'm mentioning this because he is a fellow teammate of mine, Matt Woodhouse, with the Zero Instant race. It's a great result for him. But let's get to the results here, and let's get to the interviews because we've got plenty to talk about. And Chaz, why don't you take it away with our race winner, Josh Thompson?
Well, Josh, I was just saying a moment ago that the circumstances may not have been the best there with the contact with your teammate, but I'm sure you're very, very happy to have taken a win there, buddy, because that certainly looked like a tough race out there. It didn't look like the Sebring that was many moons ago for you guys.
No, you can say that again. I don't know how. Ross was just saying he messed up a few things in the pit stop. I think that gifted the win. I kind of didn't take the fast repair in the pit stop with all the panic of having to get in the pit lane, change the fuel early because obviously I couldn't extend it. I just completely forgot to take the fast repair on. So I left the pit lane and realised I'm not taking this.
Oh, God.
And obviously I already knew the car was slow in a straight line, so every lap had to be perfect after the pits. So, it was a bit on edge, but until then it was going really well. Like, me and Moreno was waiting for because obviously we knew it was going to come down to the last stop. And we were kind of looking forward to it because obviously it was only going to be like 2 or 3 laps to the end. So it was going to go all out on the last 3 laps, but obviously that couldn't happen in the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame we didn't get to see that battle because last time out, the aforementioned Sebring race was absolutely amazing with the 3 of you all fighting together. But just talk to me a second about Ross McFarlane. Now, him and Michael Avdoka have both been hot on your heels of the Williams esports team for this season, and of course not in certain circumstances able to just pip you to the line, but they're always there or thereabouts. Is there any part of you that thinks that the team's championship could very quickly swing the other way once the rest of the team are here?
Oh yeah, 100%. They're always there or thereabouts. Obviously, obviously with Ross changing cars, it makes it a bit more unknown. See, we know at Le Mans he will be unbeatable. Like, that car is so good at Le Mans, and he knows that as well. So we've got to take that into factor. Mike is always finishing races, no matter what happens in a meeting. He'll always finish maybe a handful of points behind Moreno. Yeah. So all it takes is one swing. And as you saw tonight, what happened at the Hep in La Source can happen at any point of a championship. And that could literally decide who wins the team championship. It's just that close of how the point structure is.
Yeah, it's very, very enticing for us to see. And of course, we hope it does go down to the last round. And we're sure that whichever team does win it will be the most deserving of them as well. But before we let you go, Josh, do you want to give a shout out to anybody?
Yeah, so obviously all the admins first off for hosting the series. There was a bit of an issue with the session, but lucky enough it got all sorted in time for this to happen tonight. You guys for broadcasting and be watching the internet back and all that, and hopefully be interested to watch. And obviously Moreno and Alex, thank you for the season, and obviously all the sponsor Williams.
Cracking. Nicely said, Josh. Well, great to speak to you again, buddy. Well done on your win, and we'll speak to you again next time round, I'm sure.
Cheers, guys.
So go Josh Thompson with the win, coming in second place for the 3M team, and great to have him in the Mercedes, the sole Mercedes, Ross McFarlane. Ross, I mean, that was quite the drive from yourself. You started that one in 11th place. To find yourself in second place, you must be pleased with that result.
Yeah, pleased would be one word, but absolutely baffled is the other, I think. Qualifying went terribly. I ruined my first 2 laps. Those were the strongest laps on the tyres. And then it was just about putting in a banker and starting wherever I needed to. The safety car was... Luckily, I avoided that incident, but yeah, the safety car slowed things up a bit, kind of changes the strategy slightly, changes your fuel and what you need to get to the end, but I think there was an almighty incident ahead, and I'm not sure quite exactly what happened to George. I thought he would be battling me at the end. So yeah, I've walked away with second place, and I'm not quite sure how, but I'll take it.
Well, that's it, and of course we've seen you, the little shuffle around happen with the Pure Sims teams here in the championship, seeing yourself move to the 3M team, and you also yourself choosing to move to the Mercedes, be the sole Mercedes out there on the grid. As Josh was saying, you're pretty much that little bit of a wild card out there in that Mercedes, and you must be feeling pretty confident. I mean, we look at it, Imola next round. really long start and finish straight where that Mercedes will really use that grunt. Is it more the corners that you do struggle with this car?
It's it's a mix. The straight line performance is great. It's not quite BMW out of the corner, but the very top end, the end of sixth gear is where it shines. Um, Even the faster corners, the sort of mid to fast speed corners, it actually handles them very well, and it gets on the power very well. It doesn't really activate the traction control very much. It's very smooth out of the corners. It's the slow speed stuff. It's the tight corners, the changes of direction where it suffers. It really is a bit of a boat in those scenarios. So, through Eau Rouge Raidillon up the Kemmel Straight, I'm gaining 2-3 tenths minimum on most other cars, and then I get to Lacombe into Rivage, and by the exit of No Name or Speakers, I've lost all my time and more again. So it is a bit of a confusing car, but yeah, there's some tracks left on the calendar that it will shine at hopefully, and I'll be able to bag some more good results. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, before we let you go, you're here with the 3M Racing team, of course, the title sponsors of the championship as well. Anyone you want to give a quick mention to whilst you're here?
Yeah, I'll say thanks to Pure Sims, 3M. Obviously, I've started representing them in the series, and I think the car looks lovely. I think a lot of their products and whatnot are very well represented there. Um, and big thanks to the teammates and everyone that we drive with as well in the series. I'd like to also mention Morgan Butler. I know he's part of that shuffle that we did within the stable, and he's changed car and changed team, and his performances have just been fantastic. I think he picked up another AM win tonight, so he's really stepping up his game, which is great to see. And the rest of the drivers, whether they are there or not, some weeks they're unfortunately away. I know Michael Avdoka, unfortunately, he's not here this week because he had other commitments with being abroad and whatnot. But yeah, big thanks to everybody.
All the best, Ross, and take care for the rest of the season.
Cheers, guys.
So we've got Ross McFarlane second place in the race, and we're going to jump to your Pro-Am winner here today. Chaz, take it away with Stephen.
Stephen McCaffrey joins us in the box. Stephen, I bet you're absolutely over the moon after that one, buddy. A Pro-Am win in an endurance race is no easy feat in this championship, is it?
It is not. I am so unbelievably sweaty, but so over the moon with that. It was so much fun. I had my first endurance win last season in my first race, but to get a pro-am win is, yeah, next level. Maybe a pro win in a couple of years.
Well, you never know, mate. Well, these cars on this track, it's a legendary combo. And I mean, I drove the Audi around here last season, and I know it's not an easy car to get through corners like Blanchimont or Raidillon, and it's rather tail happy. Did you find that there was anything in particular you could do to dial that out, or was it just a case of close your eyes and hope?
In terms of dialing it out, it's just a big lift pretty much every time coming through Blanchimont, because otherwise it is a full arm of opposite lock, which definitely did happen on a couple of laps, which was absolutely terrifying, but got away with it somehow. Um, Other than that, before the Spa 24, I went and got a bit of coaching with Josh as well, Josh Thompson. So I'm thinking that might have paid off. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've seen some of Josh's ventures in his coaching, and he certainly is one of the best people to go for that. But the whole series as a whole, though, mate, it's been actually very exciting to watch you and the Paceworks Esports guys, because admittedly, not a team I'd heard of before or seen doing much in terms of league racing that I was involved in anyway. But the three of you, obviously with Carl and with Kieran as well, it's been a very, very impressive lineup. I mean, what did you do in particular to prepare for the series, or is this just a straight raw show of talent from you guys?
Not forgetting Adam. I think it's more towards. No worries. It's more towards the talent side, because we were mostly an endurance team before joining leagues. This being one of the first one, and yeah, it is just time, practice, and concentration. It's constant, and as we see with Adam, was leading pro-am coming into this, and uh, Carl not far away from the top of the pro standings. It's really nice to see all our hard work paying off.
Yeah, definitely. And you say Adam was top of the standings. He was certainly top of the stratosphere at the first lap of that race. It wasn't the ideal start, but a good recovery all the same. But well done, of course, on your Pro-Am win, mate. It's a fantastic achievement. And before we let you go, do you want to give a shout out to anybody?
Yes, I would. I'd like to, first of all, of course, thank sponsors, iPitting, Mortal, a Bruzy, and a Priori, along with Josh Thompson, like I said, for the coaching. And also, just as a quick thing, for October, we're going to do a special livery change to support Mind and Mental Health Charity and Prostate Cancer UK. So keep an eye out for that in the next few races.
We will do. Thank you very much, mate. Pleasure to see obviously the work going towards the charity as well. Good on you, and we will hopefully speak to you again very soon if you get another one of these Pro-Am wins, mate.
Look forward to it. See you soon.
Cheers, Stephen. There you go then, Mr. McCaffrey, your Pro-Am winner this evening. And like I said, Paul, in a race like this, especially an endurance race around Spa, that's not easy to do at all, is it? Especially with how competitive that Pro-Am field is, with the likes of Nella and Mike Gray right behind you.
Those Pro-Am standings are really tough and really difficult to fight it out with. We'll move on to your amateur winner here in the championship, Morgan Butler for Sim Sports Racing USA. And Morgan, for once, it's not the boss of the Morgan Butler fan club interviewing you, but how did you find that race here? Gained one place, an entire place from your grid spot, but I'm sure you had much more fun than that shows.
Yeah, it was definitely an enjoyable race. It was difficult and very sweaty, as you can imagine, doing that many laps of Spa whilst chasing after as many people as I can. But overall, thoroughly enjoyed that one. It's my highest ever place in an endurance race in the 3 seasons that I've done, and my first class win at an enduro race as well. So that's always a nice feeling.
Well, that's it. Getting those positions and getting the class win as well certainly helps you. The drop scores haven't really helped you, have they, with the championship and pushing you back down? So a good result here was a must, wasn't it?
I don't think the drop scores have really affected me too much. I mean, had I not changed cars, I'd have probably been a hell of a lot higher up there. But on the other hand, changing the cars has definitely helped me to sort of not finish as far down as probably in the Ferrari. I've definitely got a lot more pace in the Audi. I wish I'd picked the Audi to begin with, but I think that's kind of the reason that I'm not maybe where I'd want to be.
And of course, Imola next week. Back to the sprint races. How do you feel going into next week?
The Audi's really strong at Imola, so I'm looking forward to driving the car there. But I'm not so strong around Imola. It's always been a track that I've always kind of struggled with. So I'm going to have to just kind of make the best of a bad situation, really.
And well, I know your teammate mentioned it as well, but anyone you want to give a quick mention to whilst you're here in the box?
Yeah, hang on. I've got a list because there's quite a few. So obviously, huge thanks to Pure Sims, huge thanks to OBP Sports, Night Rider Designs, 3M UK, and Sim Sports, and also a big thanks to Mike Blake, who in that race we had a bit of a coming together, and the sportsmanship that he showed was absolutely second to none. It was some great racing.
We certainly do get great racing here in this series, but congratulations on the AM win and 18th overall in this race.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.
So we've got Morgan Butler. Chaz, what we are going to do is something that I've not done before, which is quick-fire interviews. We're going to drag everybody else into the room here right now, and we're going to one question only. So Chaz, take it away with Ethan Bass first.
Ethan, what are you wearing? No, sorry. Ethan, that was quite a lively race for all of you there. And, I mean, that Audi, I've been saying it to Stephen McCaffrey as well, that it's not the easiest car to drive around there. What did you find best about that race, and what did you not quite enjoy?
I would say the thing that I didn't enjoy was it completely on my own fault. I was following people on lap one, and I lifted a bit too much, I guess, following people trying to be careful, and I unfortunately lost it. It's just a driver error. That was my fault. But to be fair, it made the fight back through the grid a whole of a lot more fun with everybody in the Discord chat all helping each other with fuel strategies and tires and such. So at the end of the day, it was good to get a 17th. Not too bad. After especially being kind of out of position in qualifying, I've never been the most amazing at Spa, and I kind of dropped the qualifying on the first few laps when the tyres were the best.
Well, it certainly went well for you, mate. Obviously, this is very quick fire at the minute, so very well done. Christian Rose, next up. Just sum your race up for us, Christian, because we saw a couple of incidents in there, but you commented on the YouTube chat saying it was still good fun, so surely some enjoyable experience out there.
Yeah, it was good fun. After being involved in a lap 1 incident, and then a half spin chasing Gregory, but then to just try and hunt everyone back down and make some moves was one of the more enjoyable races of the season, that's for sure.
Smashing. Well, very well done on the recovery, mate, and top 15, still some good points, and we'll see you next time round.
Cheers.
Daniel Lee, top 10 in the end there in your Pro-Am car, in the msignsuk.com car. There you go, you get the sponsor name out there. But how did you find your race today then, Daniel?
The only way I can describe it is it was like a beautiful sprinkly donut that I dropped along the ground halfway along, but picked it up, dusted it off, and ate it anyway. So it was good. Not too bad. Really, really could have been a lot worse than that. So I'll have that.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel, for that. Wow, that was a descriptor. And then finally, I'm going to interview him because, one, he's one of the series sponsors of the championship, and two, because he's a teammate of mine, Michael Blake. 25th in the BMW. Switched to the BMW this season. Are you finding it better for yourself? Sum up today.
For an hour and a half, it was perfect. Got everything right. Ran at a good enough pace to keep Morgan in sight. Got ahead of him on the last pit stops, and then with 6 laps to go, the tyres just disappeared. Picked up 11x in 6 laps. Dropped into the 2-minute 28s on lap time, and ended up with a drive-through on the penultimate lap because I was having to downshift in Blanchimont and still understeered off the road 3 laps in a row. And had to take a drive-through at the end, so it dropped me from Pro-Am lead to Am lead to 25th.
Well, that's sometimes how it goes. I am going to give you one extra question here because you are a series supporter of this championship with Sir Mortal. Just give us a quick description of the models that you do and the work that you do with Sir Mortal.
Basically we can take any livery in iRacing and put it onto a static display scaled down car for you. We can do pretty much any size you want, as long that standard model sizes, but it can range from 143s, 132s, 124s right up to the big large scale 118 cars. Everybody check out the small Facebook page if you want to see a bit more about what we do.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. All the best for the rest of the season. And Chaz, then let's wrap up the broadcast very shortly here because this has been we'll bring that up there. That's one of a piece of Sir Mortal's work there, right there. You're seeing on screen with the thrust vector McLaren. Ferrari, sorry. But it's late. That race had pretty much everything. We had drama amongst the leaders. You had the huge accident at the start of the race. We can't forget that. Some brilliant battles throughout the field as well. Just it's difficult to sum up that race, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it had everything. Is definitely a good descriptor. I mean, Daniel Lee, the sprinkly donut that he's still at anyway. That's probably one of the best I've ever heard for a race. To be fair, so fair play to him. We still didn't find out what Ethan Bass was wearing, but that it was just great. Usually with endurance races, they have this element of everything calms down a little bit because people know there's longer to get things done, and they have a bit of strategy to think about. People will go for moves. We saw it with George McClay as well when Arana came through. He didn't defend. He didn't make a big fuss of it. He just thought, right, this car's going to get past me. He's going to be quicker than me. I'll go with him. And it's a really clever mindset. These drivers, it's like they turn something on or off in their heads just in the way they approach it. And I think that even though we had that today, there was a lot of amazing racing, big moves, big sends, a little bit of carnage here and there, but makes it all entertaining for us. And still a deserving winner in Josh Thompson. He did a really good job of still keeping that car going despite the damage, and even though he didn't take that fast repair.
Absolutely. Well, we'll head next week then. You see the schedule up on screen there. Imola. I mean, that is a different challenge entirely. You've got the high speed of the first sector, you've got the quite technical second sector there, and then the run out of the Variante Alta all the way down towards the end of the lap. I mean, what can we expect? Because we're back to the sprint races, 3 20-minute races next week.
Yeah, Imola's a very, very difficult circuit to get right in GT3 cars because of the fact that they can get so twitchy when they're mid-corner. If you make those little extra adjustments on the lock or on the throttle or even on the brakes, they can very easily just break away from you around there. And like you say, it's so fast in certain sectors. And there's humongous sausage curbs as well. There's a lot of chicanes at Imola and a lot of very, very deep curbs and only small runoff areas as well, which can catch drivers out. So a lot of elements for them to fight against, but I think we're going to see some very entertaining racing there. Of course, last season ended at Imola when Pete Harrod was crowned champion, and he'll be back with us next week as well on October the 5th. And then, well, 3 circuits after that as well that, in my mind, are absolute belters. Indianapolis Road is one of the underrated circuits on this calendar, and I think that's going to be a very interesting way to round out the season, you know.
Absolutely, of course. The final endurance race will be the classic Circuit de la Sarthe for this one, but I'm afraid we have run out of time here on broadcast, so it's just leaves it for me to say thank you very much to my commentary colleague. He's had a busy weekend of it, having been in Germany for the Nürburgring 24 hours. Chaz Draycott, thank you very much for joining me on commentary as always. And Istvan Ballo, trackcams22.com, as well as Hugo Lewis for the brilliant B-roll shots that we got of Spa-Francorchamps behind the calendar there at the end. I've been Paul Smith, and that has been the third of the endurance races here in the World GT Championship. Next week, we head on over to Italy and the absolutely iconic Imola circuit. You will not want to miss that. 3 sprint races, same time next week. Until then, from myself and everybody here at RaceSpot TV, it's goodbye. Sometimes I'd like to be alone in my own mind. I feel at home within these walls. I fear my own absence of association.